Seeing her husband and mother-in-law present, second brother's wife regained her arrogance. She wailed, accusing me of bullying a child over a few pastries. Ignoring her, I tossed the remaining half-bag of pastries to my sister and strode toward the woman, despite my brother-in-law's pleas for restraint. The brother-in-law felt conflicted. While his nephew's behavior was shameful, he couldn't allow me to strike his sister-in-law. I moved like a gust of wind, grabbing the woman by the throat and lifting her off the ground. The woman, weighing over 100 pounds, felt as light as a feather in my grip. Old woman Wu emerged to find her grandson crying and her daughter-in-law being throttled by me. She frantically demanded that I release her daughter-in-law. The woman was turning purple, gasping for air. My sister and brother-in-law tried to intervene, but they couldn't budge my iron grip. I coldly demanded the location of the second bag of pastries, threatening to kill her if she didn't produce it. I held her for 30 seconds, my expression stone cold, showing no intention of letting go until she complied. Old woman Wu urged her daughter-in-law to reveal where the pastries were hidden. Realizing the danger, the eldest uncle and old woman Wu finally admitted they knew where the stash was and promised to retrieve it. I agreed to release her only once the items were returned. I loosened my grip slightly, but kept her suspended until old woman Wu returned with the stolen goods. I ordered them to return the pastries to my sister's room exactly as they had been taken. My sister wept in fear, but I knew exactly how much force to apply to intimidate without causing permanent harm. Old woman Wu rushed to comply, stumbling into the sister's room. Once released, the woman collapsed, gasping for air, traumatized by her brush with death. Just then, second brother returned home, and his wife immediately broke into loud, pathetic sobs. She wailed to her husband about being nearly strangled to death. Second brother and old man Wu returned from fishing to find the scene of chaos and his wife accusing me. Second brother confronted his older brother, demanding to know why he allowed his brother-in-law to bully his wife. The eldest uncle snapped back, rebuking his brother for his lack of respect and failure to ask about the cause of the conflict. I towered over both brothers, my physical presence far more imposing. Old man Wu watched silently, leaving me wary but unafraid. Second brother, emboldened by being on home turf, threatened to teach me a lesson. I, having no patience for such arrogance, prepared to act. With a single kick, I sent second brother flying 3 meters, leaving him doubled over in pain. Old man Wu tried to intervene, but was blocked by my brother-in-law. The women tried to approach, but a single cold glare from me froze them in their tracks. The eldest uncle quickly explained the situation to prevent his father from suffering the same fate as his brother. Old man Wu, instead of addressing the theft, accused his daughter-in-law of bringing her brother to bully his family. He shifted the blame entirely onto his daughter. A crowd of villagers had gathered outside, listening to the old man's accusations. Murmurs of gossip filled the air. I challenged the old man, asking if the Wu family valued reason. If not, I would take my sister and leave. I brought out the supplies I had provided my sister, grain and sika deer meat. I addressed the crowd, highlighting how my sister was treated like a servant while the second brother's wife lived in luxury. I pointed out how my sister had been worked to the bone, while the other woman remained soft and idle. I presented the Grain Bureau documents to prove I had provided for my sister's needs. I listed the gifts I had brought, meat, clothes, and pastries, as evidence of my care. I recounted how the second brother's wife had watched her child steal the pastries I bought for my sister, proving the adults were the ones truly at fault. I asked the crowd if I was wrong to discipline the child for such blatant theft. The villagers, impressed by my generosity, began to side with me, with someone shouting that I did the right thing. The culprit remained hidden in the crowd. I revealed that the second bag of stolen pastries was found hidden in the second brother's room. I asked the villagers if a brother should stand up for his sister when she is being exploited and mistreated in such a shameless manner. The crowd agreed, with many voices rising to condemn the Wu family's behavior. It was clear to everyone that the family had been bullying a kind, hard-working woman. I turned back to old man Wu, demanding to know if he still thought his actions were unjustified. Old man Wu's mouth twitched. Given the generous gift of 100 caddies of corn flour and 20 caddies of venison, he couldn't justify further conflict without appearing unreasonable. Bullshit. The kid didn't know any better. Why did you lay hands on my wife? the second brother barked, clearly recovered from the earlier scuffle. I didn't take it back. Your mother brought it out. Ask her how she knew where it was. You think a child took it? Want to swear on your parents' lives? I retorted. You? The second brother fell silent. Swearing would only make him a laughingstock. Enough, old man Wu interjected. This is our family's misunderstanding. The second branch was in the wrong. I apologize. Please, don't hold it against them. I realized that with the family elder apologizing, I had reached the limit of what I could demand without appearing disrespectful. I don't care about the rest, but you all remember how my sister looked when she married into this family, right? I brought these supplies to nourish her. If the second branch touches even a bit, I'll smash your cooking pots. Is that clear? The crowd, eager for drama, immediately agreed that my terms were fair. I nodded, satisfied, and turned my attention back to old man Wu. Helping a sister is only right. Rest assured, the second branch won't touch your gifts. If they do, I'll deal with them myself, old man Wu promised. Old man Wu realized I was a loose cannon. Pushing me further would only lead to trouble. Good. I trust your word as the head of the house. I assume the Wu family isn't the type to use filial piety as an excuse to mooch off others, I said. Old man Wu's face tightened. I then walked toward the second brother, who retreated in terror. What are you doing? Ignoring him, I approached a 500 caddy stone millstone standing in the yard. I gripped it, hoisted it with a roar, and hurled it across the yard. Consider this a warning. If you bully my sister while I'm away, I'll tie you up and throw you in the river. The crowd gasped in shock, whispering about my divine strength. The display silenced the Wu family and the villagers. Suli covered her mouth in disbelief. Though my muscles weren't prominent, my 27-point strength stat allowed me to perform the feat, though it pushed me to my limit. The second brother, terrified, went silent, and his wife hid behind her mother-in-law. If I find out my sister is doing all the chores, you'll all regret it. Understand? The second brother nodded frantically, promising to comply. I shouldered the flour and venison and headed to my sister's room. Let's go, sister, I said. Suli followed, with her husband trailing behind nervously. I left, but the village was buzzing. The news would spread through Wujia Town within the hour. Wujia Town was essentially a village centered around the local government office. Did you hear? The sister-in-law's brother has divine strength. He threw a 500 caddy stone 10 meters. 10 meters? I heard 15. Don't be ridiculous. The yard isn't even that big. Stop spreading rumors. The village party secretary heard the news and confirmed the details. Old man Wu is a disgrace, letting his second son's wife act like that and shaming our town. I need to have a word with him, the secretary grumbled. The accountant chimed in. The old lady married and pregnant after her first husband died. Old man Wu has always suspected the eldest son wasn't his, treating him like a beast of burden. The old lady used to protect the eldest, but after the second son was born, she became biased too. It's a tragedy. Even though blood tests matched, the old man's paranoia persisted. He barely agreed to the eldest son's marriage. It doesn't matter. He's nearly 50 and dragging our town's reputation through the mud. If the town leaders find out, we'll all be criticized for this backward thinking, the secretary snapped. I turned to my brother-in-law. Sister is in your hands. If you can't protect her, I will, and then you won't be needed anymore. I patted my brother-in-law's shoulder, who nodded solemnly, clearly struggling with his ingrained filial piety. I didn't care about tradition. If the man couldn't step up, I'd find my sister a better life. My sister was still beautiful, just worn down by years of labor and malnutrition. Sister, if things get tough, come home. I won't let you and Yaya go hungry. Suli laughed through her tears and pushed me toward my bike. Go on now. You made such a scene. How am I supposed to face them? You need to learn some restraint, she teased, though she was clearly moved. She trembled with suppressed emotion. I'm going. Don't worry about Yaya. If you want to give the in-laws some food, keep it minimal. Keep the rest for yourselves, I advised. Suli nodded, and I rode off. Your brother is something else. He scared the second branch into paying for the pastries. I thought it was an earthquake when that stone hit the ground, her husband remarked. Don't exaggerate, Suli replied. She felt a sense of security. Her mother-in-law would think twice before mistreating her now. I sped back toward Sanshuiwan at 40 miles per hour. Third brother, you're back? Did you drop off your sister? Yes, sister-in-law. Where's my brother? I asked Li Xiuqin. He's in the fields. Mother told me to stay home, so the village wouldn't say she's mistreating the new bride. I smirked, knowing my mother's kindness was likely just a temporary honeymoon phase for the new daughter-in-law. That evening, the family gathered, and the eldest brother complained. Father, the eldest uncle's family is too much. My wife went to pay her respects, and they wouldn't even open the door, humiliating us in front of the neighbors. If you hadn't stopped me, I would have kicked down their door. Why can't I acknowledge my own uncle and grandparents? Are they only his parents? Su Sheng was usually restless, but he acted timidly around his uncle's family, fearing his father's reaction and the village's gossip. I could tolerate a slight or two, but I wouldn't stand for being targeted repeatedly. Enough. You know why they act this way. The commune is already investigating Zhongjia Village. Your aunt's niece is under scrutiny. Don't expect a warm welcome. I had almost forgotten the matter. My aunt's niece from the Zheng family was pregnant. Dad, did the commune say how they'd handle it? I was curious, as I had never encountered such a situation in this era. They confirmed the pregnancy. If it were a lie, you'd be in trouble. They're contacting the unit of that educated youth, Lu, to see if they can negotiate a resolution. The commune is trying to minimize the fallout by intervening directly. Obviously, this isn't something they want publicized. If the guy admits it and marries her, it's a happy ending. If not, it's complicated. In this era, without DNA testing, it's hard to prove paternity if the man denies it, especially since their affair was secret and lacked witnesses. I chuckled, unbothered. If the Zheng girl sought revenge, it would be as obvious as lice on a bald head. I doubted she had the capability to frame me effectively. After dinner, I returned to my room and counted my money. Over 4,700, including my previous savings. Money doesn't last. A watch, coupons, nearly 500 gone. Time to get back to work tomorrow. The next day, I visited Huzi, who was eager to test his new rifle after being stuck at home during Su Sheng's wedding. Brother I've been waiting. Finally, you're free. Enough talk. Bring the 3-stone bow. Huzi was stunned. A 3-stone bow, 360 gene ancient weight, roughly 180 gene modern, was significantly heavier than the 1-stone or 2-stone versions. Strength alone doesn't guarantee archery skill. It requires specific muscle training and technique. Even a weightlifter might struggle to shoot accurately with a heavy bow because the mechanics of drawing and releasing differ from lifting. My strength had reached 27 points. While I could manage the 3-stone bow, I lacked the specific muscle memory to use it as fluidly as the 2-stone bow without risking injury. My strength came from various skills, not just archery. I was still training the specific tendons and muscles needed for heavy bows. I relied on raw strength and technique to compensate for my lack of specialized conditioning. No way. My grandfather would kill me if he knew I took that treasure. Coward. Fine, bring the 2-stone bow. Huzi grabbed the 2-stone bow, and both men shouldered their rifles. I brought the bow to save ammunition on small game, preferring a slower, more deliberate hunt. Let's return by nightfall. We aren't coming back for lunch. No. I have seasoning, salt, and fire-starting tools. We'll roast our catch in the wild. Huzi was thrilled. Should I bring some wine, brother I gave him a strange look. We aren't landlords. We're here to hunt, not feast. It's dangerous in the mountains. No drinking. Just fill the water bottles. Huzi complied, and they headed into the forest. Are we splitting up again? Huzi asked, feeling brave only because I was there. Stay close. If you run into trouble, I can't save you if we're too far apart. I checked my system panel. Constitution 18, Strength 27, Speed 20, Endurance 22. Skills: Fishing LV3, Basic Archery LV9, Tracking LV7, Dog Training LV1, Combat Fighting LV4, Butchery LV17, Rock Climbing LV7, Marksmanship LV8, Carpentry LV5, Parkour LV7. Skill points, 0. I had poured my points into parkour. With no recent gains, I was ready to hunt for more. They walked 10 meters apart to avoid scaring off game while staying within sight. Whoosh! My arrow pinned a pheasant to a tree 30 meters away, the shaft vibrating from the sheer force. While arrows lack the range of rifles, their penetration power is formidable. They were not inferior to firearms in close-quarters lethality. By noon, Both had a decent haul. Brother I want to keep what I kill from now on. It's not fair that you keep sharing your catch with me. Huzi felt guilty. He wanted to earn his own way rather than relying on my generosity. I understood the sentiment, though I worried about Huzi's safety. Did Uncle Dihai say something to you? I guessed. Yeah. He said I shouldn't use the money you gave me to pay you back for the rifle. I need to earn it myself. He's right. I can't keep taking advantage of you. I want to pay you back with my own earnings. I was touched by Huzi's integrity. Don't stress, Huzi. I gave you that rifle as a gift. If you want to pay me back, fine, but don't take unnecessary risks. Your safety is more important than the money. Don't worry, I won't be impulsive or go to Shirley Slope alone. I know my limits. They cleared the air. Without this talk, Huzi might have seemed like he wanted to go solo now that he had a gun. They agreed to hunt separately, but stay within reach to support each other, avoiding conflicts over spoils. I agreed with Huzi's father. Many brothers have fallen out over uneven distribution. I realized that while I currently only support myself, my perspective might shift once I marry and have a family. Clearing this up now was for the best. Fine. Once you're ready, I'll mentor you. Once your marksmanship improves, we'll space out further so one shot doesn't scare away all the game for the other. Two people shooting together scares everything within 100 meters. By splitting up, they can drive prey toward each other, maximizing their catch instead of chasing animals away. You aren't mad, are you? My dad insisted I pay you back. 500 is a lot. Even if we don't care, your family might. You aren't split from your parents yet, and your brother just married. It might cause trouble if they think you're giving away family money. Sudihai was likely worried about my sister-in-law. Even if Huzi is close, he is an outsider. In an undivided household, earnings belong to the family. Though their home is peaceful, money breeds greed. My own father had a falling out with his brother over interests, after all. Sudihai was trying to protect me from future conflict, knowing the secret of the gun wouldn't stay hidden forever. Huzi's father valued their friendship and wanted to prevent any resentment. He treated their bond with the careful respect of a romantic relationship. Enough, let's eat. I handed over a beggar's chicken, the fastest way to cook in the wild. Roasting takes hours and risks burning or undercooking. The mud-caked beggar's chicken is far more efficient. I reflected on my modern mindset. Huzi's father was right. In this era, an unmarried son living at home should contribute his earnings to his mother for the family's future. It's fine now, but once my brother has children, the dynamic will change. Relying on my brother and sister-in-law to support me while I hunt for myself would inevitably cause friction. If I have the ability to earn, I must contribute. Keeping money for myself while my family struggles, or giving it to outsiders, is a recipe for disaster, even among the closest brothers. I realized my mistake. I had been hiding my earnings, planning to split only after marriage, but I had ignored the social reality of the village. I needed to be more careful. Li Xiuqin is reasonable, but she wouldn't tolerate me prioritizing outsiders over the family's needs. I reflected on my behavior. They hunted until dark. I returned with a heavy load of large game, while Huzi brought mostly pheasants and rabbits. My haul would have been even larger if I hadn't been watching out for Huzi. I kicked open the gate, staggering under the weight of my catch. Back from hunting? What did you get? Li Xiuqin was feeding the dog, Haizi, with my younger sister watching. Third brother, what are we eating tonight? I ignored my sister, greeted my sister-in-law, and dropped the heavy load. The rest of the family gathered around to see. Heavens, third brother, did you wipe out a wolf den? I had tracked the pack from my previous hunt, bagging 6 more wolves. There were dozens. I got 6 today, and Huzi got 1. The family assumed Huzi used a bow, as they didn't know about the gun. What's that? Yaya asked, pointing to a lynx. That's for the dog, I replied. Besides the wolves, I brought 2 pheasants, 2 rabbits, and a small wild boar. Yaya and Su Jing had been playing with the dog and eagle all day. Sister-in-law, bring the skinning knife. Li Xiuqin was thrilled. Thanks to my skills, they had been eating meat regularly, a luxury she never imagined. Carrying over 200 pounds of game for miles was no small feat. I checked my system. I only gained 28 skill points, likely because the system now deemed small game beneath me. I began skinning and deboning the 6 wolves. I cleaned the boar, leaving it whole for a better price. I prepped the lynx for the dog and set the small game aside. Sister-in-law, stew one of the wolves for us. I chopped up the wolf, setting the head aside for the dog. I gave meat to Su Jing for the eagle. Soon, Su He, my mother, and my eldest brother returned. Li Xiuqin had returned early to cook, as the family's chores were managed by the brigade. The work bell rang, and the rest of the family arrived. 6 wolves? That's too dangerous. Stay away from predators. Sui scolded. I was used to my father's tone. Dad, I need to discuss something. The family gathered, sensing the gravity of my tone. What is it? Sui asked. Dad, it's time to finalize things with Huang Sui from Huangjia Village. Also, we promised to support Uncle Li in his old age. He needs a place to stay. With the current space, Uncle Li can stay with Su Jin, but once I marry and Su Jin eventually marries, we won't have enough room. Li Xiuqin listened intently, worried that I might renege on my promises now that she had officially joined the family. Eldest brother asked what I meant, clearly misunderstanding my intentions. I reassured him I would honor my promises. Once married, I planned to have Lao Si and Su Jing share a room temporarily while I secured a plot of land from the village party secretary to build a new house, eventually leaving my current room for Su Jing. I proposed that Lao Si continue living with Uncle Li, while Su Jing moved into my room until she married. My plan was logical. While Su Jing was young, sharing with Su He was fine, but as she grew older, separate arrangements would be necessary. With Uncle Li moving in, the current space was insufficient, making a new house essential. Su's father hesitated, acknowledging the need for preparation even if Uncle Li hadn't moved in yet. He worried about the lack of funds for a new house, especially as the children grew older and needed privacy. I told my father not to worry about the costs, as I would handle it myself. I was only informing them to avoid misunderstandings about my desire for independence. I knew that as the siblings matured, the current living situation would become untenable. It would be inappropriate for Lao Si to share a room with his sister after marriage. Su's father questioned how I could possibly afford a house, doubting that hunting would provide enough income. Su He, a formal worker, looked down on hunting and self-employment compared to his iron rice bowl. I didn't bother explaining, satisfied that I had notified my father. Su's father agreed to help save and borrow money over the next few years to build a room for me. He envisioned building a north room, leaving the rest to my own initiative. Su's father mentioned he had already spoken to the village head about the match with Huang Sui and would follow up, advising me to prepare the bridal gift, but wait a while, as his brother had just married. I felt impatient. I wanted to move out to gain privacy and independence. I agreed to prepare the gifts. Meanwhile, Li Xiuqin and Su Sheng returned to their room, where she worried that my desire to move out meant I was distancing myself from the family. She doubted the family's standard of living could be maintained without my contributions. Su Sheng defended his brother, citing how much I had helped him get married and set up their room. Li Xiuqin brushed it off, then asked if he had prepared the gifts for her return to her parents' home the next day. Su Sheng confirmed he had arranged for canned food, brown sugar, meat, and grain. Li Xiuqin teased him about his phrasing regarding her father. Su Sheng laughed and embraced her. In the other room, I pulled my quilt over my head, while Lao Si watched me, sighing. Lao Si complained about the noise from the eldest brother's room. The adobe walls provided no soundproofing, making the situation unbearable for the young men. Lao Si suggested I take a cold shower to cool off. At 14, Lao Si understood the situation but remained patient because it was his own brother. He jokingly told me to endure it for the sake of the family line. I sighed, determined more than ever to move out and escape the beasts occupying the house. The next day, I met with the old party secretary, Su Daqiang, to discuss the marriage proposal and request a residential plot. The secretary was surprised by the request for a separate plot. In the village, brothers rarely separated while their parents were alive unless absolutely necessary. I explained the space constraints, and the secretary asked if Su's father had agreed. The secretary wouldn't act without Su's father's explicit consent to avoid family conflict. I assured him that my father had agreed. The secretary recalled that the family had split before due to land issues. He agreed it was reasonable, but noted the scarcity of land, offering to help apply for a change in land status if I chose a spot. I considered the limited options for village land. I proposed a plot near the edge of the village. It was the only viable option to remain within the village boundaries. The secretary confirmed the location, noting it was on a downward slope. He warned that the area required filling with soil to be usable. The village had been built on elevated ground to prevent flooding from the mountains. I accepted the challenge, asking for a slightly larger yard in exchange for my labor. The secretary agreed, seeing it as fair compensation for the work involved. He warned me not to be too greedy with the size. I agreed, unbothered by the labor, as I planned to hire a construction team for a brick house anyway. I knew the construction crew would handle the foundation work easily. After finalizing the plans, I went to the city with Huzi to sell our wolf and rabbit skins. Huzi complained that Fifth Master's payout was low. I reminded him that the profit was significant compared to the cost of ammunition, making it a worthwhile venture. Huzi realized that after accounting for the low ammunition cost, his profit was substantial. Selling the meat made the venture well worth the effort. I reminded him that 5 yuan was a month's earnings for a family of 5 in the village. Don't be greedy. You've earned a third of my father's monthly salary in one trip. Huzi conceded the point, but noted that my father had the security of an iron rice bowl, which was different from their risky hunting. I scoffed. The iron rice bowl was just a civil service job, and skilled individuals could earn just as much elsewhere. As they walked, Huzi realized they weren't heading home. Where are we going, brother you? To the state-run restaurant in the county. Master Lu gave us a sales lead, and we need to offload this game. Huzi recalled that I had brought the pelts and the excess game meat along. I parked at the supply and marketing cooperative. Watch the gear, Huzi. I'm going in to buy something. I returned with 2 packs of cigarettes, one opened in my pocket, the other hidden against my chest. Let's go. They headed toward the steel mill, located on the outskirts due to its heavy industrial pollution. Without navigation, they spent considerable time asking for directions before finally locating the site. Steel mill. Seeing the sign, both men breathed a sigh of relief after their long detour. A guard from the security department approached with a Type 56 semi-automatic rifle. Huzi whispered, "That's a fine rifle." I nudged Huzi to stop staring, fearing they might be mistaken for enemy agents. "Comrade, we're looking for Wei Huide in the kitchen." The guard relaxed slightly but kept his distance. "What business do you have with him? Who are you?" Security departments were standard in state-owned enterprises to prevent sabotage by enemy agents. "We were sent by his senior, Master Lu. Please call him out." "Wait here." The guard called the logistics department and told them to wait. Unable to get close, they squatted nearby and smoked while waiting. A middle-aged man, Wei Huide, appeared. "Who's looking for me, Xiao Zhao?" Wei Huide was familiar with the guard, Xiao Zhao. "Those 2 boys. They claim to be sent by your senior, Master Lu." Wei Huide recognized the connection immediately. "My senior sent you?" He remained skeptical, testing them to see if they knew his senior's name. I produced a note written by Master Lu. Wei Huide recognized the handwriting. He and his senior had spent years training together. "It is his handwriting. What did he send you for?" I explained our purpose and offered a pack of cigarettes worth 3 yuan. It was a significant gift, worth a month's worth of village work points. Wei Huide initially refused, offering to help check the game and facilitate a sale through the procurement department without taking the gift. I insisted, and Wei Huide eventually tucked the cigarettes away. Wei Huide led them into the steel mill to find a contact in the procurement department. He explained that while the factory didn't usually buy from individuals, they could process the game as part of their procurement quota. Procurement agents usually bought from hunters, but Sanshuiwan was too far for small quantities. However, since the goods were delivered, the factory was happy to accept them. Wei Huide introduced me to the agent, Xiao Zhang, asking him to prioritize their future shipments. As the head chef, Wei Huide held enough sway for Xiao Zhang to agree. "Don't worry, Master Wei. As long as the quality is good, I'll handle it." I introduced myself and presented the boar, wolves, rabbits, and pheasants. Quite a haul. "Is it fresh?" Xiao Zhang and Wei Huide inspected the game thoroughly. "It's fresh. Let's weigh it." Shortly after, I and Huzi left the mill. Huzi was impressed. Master Wei was a huge help. We wouldn't have gotten paid today without him. Getting paid on the spot was rare, without an inside connection in the finance department. I agreed. They had earned 150 yuan for the wolves, boar, and small game, with excellent rates for the meat. Even with the weight of the bones, the price per caddy was very fair. "Let's head to the restaurant and wait for them to finish their shift." I invited the steel mill procurement officer, Zheng Yuegua, and Master Wei to a small, unofficial eatery near the factory to build connections. These fly restaurants operated in a legal gray area, masquerading as private gatherings to avoid scrutiny. Much like illicit affairs, they were tolerated as long as they weren't caught in the act. This was the precursor to modern agritainment. It relied on word of mouth and lacked formal signage. Huzi and I met there, trusting Master Wei's refined palate to ensure the food was decent. Zheng Yuegua, the procurement officer who handled my supply line, arrived shortly after. I greeted them warmly, ushering the two men inside. The setting was informal, with everyone sitting on a heated Kong, making the business meeting feel like a family gathering. The men exchanged pleasantries, noting they had come straight from work. I ordered a lavish meal with high-quality liquor, keeping the cigarettes and drinks flowing to build rapport. As the meal progressed, the atmosphere grew intimate, and their forms of address became more casual. The steel mill was a prestigious, high-status enterprise, and securing a connection there was a strategic move for me. I viewed this as a low-cost investment for future opportunities. A tipsy Zheng Yuegua promised me his full support as a friend. While Zheng was drunk, Master Wei remained composed, showing the restraint of an older man. Master Wei took responsibility for getting Zheng home, urging me and Huzi to ride carefully. I paid the bill and headed back to Sanshuiwan with Huzi. Huzi, accustomed to following my lead without question, didn't need to understand the strategy behind the treat. Upon returning, I was greeted by my younger brother, Su Jin, who noticed the smell of alcohol. Su Jin, sharing a room with me, was the one who opened the door. Their mother, Lu Yuji, called out from her room to check on him. I reassured her, and she let me go to sleep without further questioning. The next morning, I bought gifts for my marriage proposal and visited the village party secretary. After securing the secretary's help, I asked about local construction teams. The secretary suggested a team from my grandmother's home village, Zhengjia Village, but warned me to be careful with my phrasing. Due to the political climate, hiring labor was often viewed as capitalist exploitation. Even state-run restaurants enforced a facade of equality, making the act of hiring help a sensitive matter. I traveled to Zhengjia Village and found the foreman, Uncle Zheng, carefully framing my request as a favor rather than a contract. I invoked my grandmother's connection to establish trust before discussing my house construction. Both men understood the subtext of the conversation without needing to state the illegal nature of the transaction. I proposed a lump sum contract for the entire project, including materials and labor. Uncle Zheng was surprised by this unconventional, all-in approach. At the time, construction was usually done by the homeowner buying materials and paying daily wages. My proposal incentivized the team to finish quickly so they could move on to other jobs. This shift from daily pay to a project-based fee encouraged efficiency. Uncle Zheng agreed to survey the site before committing to a price. They returned to Sanshuiwan, where I showed him the designated land. Soil for the foundation would be sourced from nearby irrigation ditches, a labor-intensive but necessary task. Uncle Zheng estimated 1,500 yuan for materials for a 5-room north room structure, noting the difficulty of the foundation work. I hinted at future projects to negotiate the price. Recognizing my serious intent and financial capability, Uncle Zheng took me seriously. They settled on 1,600 yuan total, with 100 yuan allocated for labor. With daily wages for masons at 0.3 yuan, this was a significant sum. The contract offered the workers a chance to earn a month's worth of work points in just 10 days. I agreed and insisted on a written receipt. They drafted a formal agreement at the secretary's house, with me paying the 1,500 yuan up front. When Uncle Zheng remained overly formal, I insisted on a more familial tone. I reminded the foreman that they were family, not strangers. Uncle Zheng understood and accepted the dynamic. While the labor fee seemed low, Uncle Zheng could profit by leveraging his connections for bulk material discounts. I knew my father could get internal pricing at the brick factory, but decided the convenience of outsourcing was worth the extra cost. Over the next few days, the team began excavating soil under the village party secretary's supervision. I was satisfied, leaving my mother to provide basic hospitality while the team handled the labor. Huzi arrived, eager to go hunting now that I was less occupied. I had been busy managing the house construction and the marriage proposal process. The village party secretary had already visited Huangjia village with gifts to formalize the engagement. My father and I attended the meeting, where we presented a 50 yuan bridal gift, matching the amount given for his sister-in-law. Li Xiuqin had accepted the previous gift to support her aging father, a detail I kept in mind. Old man Huang, seeing the generous gift, felt reassured that his daughter would be valued in her new home. The engagement was finalized, and I promised Huang Sui a special gift upon her arrival. Seeing Huzi's anticipation, I agreed to go hunting. Huzi had been hunting while I stayed behind, and I had recently accepted 20 caddies of roe deer meat from him without payment. Since buying pork in town was impossible, I relied on Huzi's daily reports of his catches to plan our trips. Huzi was impulsive and headstrong, so his family only felt at ease when he was with the steady me. Huzi had grown up following me, so he checked in daily to see if we could head into the mountains together. All right, wait for me, I informed Uncle Zhang, then returned home to grab a rope and my rifle. Bring your bow and arrows. I prefer them for small game, I suggested. I had leveled my archery skill to 9 and intended to use it. Huzi agreed and rushed home to retrieve his gear. Huzi was thrilled that I agreed to accompany him, and the two set off toward the mountains. Brother Yu, is it true you're engaged to Huang Sui from Huangjia village? Huzi asked. I nodded. There was no need to hide such happy news from a close friend. First Shingur gets married, now you. You two are certainly in a hurry to carry on the family line, Huzi teased. Huang Sui is a beauty. You got a great deal, Huzi added. I rolled my eyes and corrected him. Don't talk nonsense. Call her sister-in-law. Huzi pouted. They were the same age, but Huzi was technically older, making the transition to sister-in-law awkward. Still complaining? Let's go, I urged. They approached a stream. Usually, they took a long detour to avoid the slippery, treacherous boulders in the water. Wanting to save time, I chose the shortcut. Watch your step, the rocks are slippery. The stream was shallow, barely reaching their ankles at this crossing. Don't worry, I won't fall, Huzi replied. I leaped onto the first boulder, using the series of stones to cross. I looked back to find Huzi staring at something. What's wrong? Scared. Huzi pointed. Brother, you look, is that a person? I looked and saw a body submerged in the water, pinned against a boulder about 7 meters away. Damn, someone's drowning. I didn't hesitate, wading straight into the water. Huzi followed, both men anxious that it might be a fellow villager. I reached the person first, pulled her from the water, and carried her to the bank. It's Su Jiqing. Huzi recognized her. I checked for a pulse. She has a pulse, but she's not breathing. Huzi asked if he should fetch Li Yukai, the barefoot doctor. No time, I replied. Li Yukai was nearly 60. By the time he arrived, it would be too late. Then what do we do? Huzi was clueless, but I, drawing on 20th century knowledge, knew I had to act. Artificial respiration and CPR, I muttered. What's that? Huzi asked. No time to explain. Lay her flat. I commanded. Huzi obeyed. I took a breath, pinched her nose, and performed mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. Huzi watched in shock, initially thinking I was taking advantage of her. I then began chest compressions. Cough. Brother you, is this working? Huzi asked. Seeing my focused intensity, Huzi realized this was a life-saving attempt, not a prank. I don't know, but we have to try our best, I replied. Huzi decided to trust me and stood guard. Hey, what are you doing? Xiaoya. 3 female educated youth arrived, carrying basins. Seeing Su Jiqing soaked and me pressing on her chest, they panicked. Huzi blocked them, explaining the situation. Saving her? That's indecent. You're a hooligan, Su Yu, one shouted. Huzi understood their concern. In this era, even holding hands could lead to public shaming. But I had no choice. Stop talking. Huzi, keep them back. If I don't do this, she'll die. I continued the resuscitation, ignoring the women's insults. After several minutes, Su Jiqing gasped and regained consciousness. Phew, it worked, I sighed. The women fell silent, stunned that I had actually revived her. Su Jiqing began to cough violently. As she sat up, the other women rushed to her, asking if I or Huzi had pushed her in. I glared at the accuser, sensing malice or an attempt to stir up trouble. What are you looking at? It was either us or you, the woman retorted. Shut up. Can't you see our hunting gear? We found her already in the water. Huzi snapped. Enough, I interrupted. Let's just ask her. Everyone turned to Su Jiqing. I don't know. I felt someone push me from behind. Then I hit my head on a rock and passed out, she whispered. Huzi and I exchanged a look. Someone tried to kill you? The group realized this wasn't an accident. Someone had deliberately pushed her. Don't look at us, Huzi defended. If we were the ones who pushed her, why would we save her? The logic held. Huzi and I had no motive to harm her. Su Jiqing, do you want to report this to the public security? The women crowded her, but she clutched her head. Please, stop shouting. My head hurts, let me think. I interrupted. Enough. Take her back, change her clothes to prevent a chill, and give her ginger tea. Right, let's go. The group helped Su Jiqing toward the village. What nerve! She accused us of ill intent, then left without a single thank you after we saved her. I signaled Huzi to let it go. They're intellectuals. We're just rural laborers. Her thanks don't matter. Let's keep moving. I, indifferent to my wet clothes, waded straight across the stream. Brother you, who do you think tried to harm her? Hardly harm. The water wasn't deep enough to drown her. It was likely an accident, though she may have been targeted for revenge. Revenge? Could it be? Huzi fell silent, realizing the only people in Sanshuiwan who hated her were my eldest uncle's family, and only his aunt frequented that stream. Don't overthink it. Maybe it was one of her own. Huzi looked confused. She's cold and distant. Between my fight and Su Bin's arrest, others are likely jealous of her popularity. Huzi suspected I was shielding my aunt, but the logic held. Pushing her into shallow water wasn't meant to kill, but to humiliate or injure. Forget them. Her family has connections. They'll handle it. Let's go. They reached the mountainside, where game began to appear. Standard formation, 10 meters apart, Huzi said, heading left with his rifle. I signaled, and we began our sweep, one with a rifle, the other with a bow. By noon, they sat by a fire roasting a 30-pound wild boar. As the meat sizzled, I added chili powder, cumin, and salt, filling the air with a rich aroma. They had enough game piled behind them to justify roasting the pig. Brother you, was Su Jiqing's mouth sweet? You kissed her for a long time. I'm envious. I rolled my eyes. And the feel. I saw you pressing her chest. How was it? I couldn't deny it. CPR required clearing her chest of restrictive clothing. I had torn her outer garment, but stopped before the undergarments, exposing only her collarbone. The physical sensation was undeniable, but I had been focused on saving her. Still, I mused that my wife, Huang Sui, was just as well endowed. Stop it. That was life-saving CPR and artificial respiration. Read a first aid manual if you're curious. Such knowledge was rare in rural areas, limited mostly to doctors or specialized professionals. Villagers were simple and prone to taking things at face value, often confusing actors with the characters they played. They were easily misled due to limited exposure. I won't talk, but Su Jiqing might. I sighed. I couldn't exactly warn her to keep quiet. She'd call me a pervert. In this era, explaining the medical necessity of CPR was difficult, and unsolicited advice would be seen as harassment. We've hit the jackpot, brother you, but we're 10 miles out. Getting this back will be tough. 10 miles in dense forest was grueling, even for elite soldiers. Fortunately, they had paced themselves. I checked my Shanghai watch, 12:25 p.m. Returning now would be a waste of the trip. We're near Shirley Slope. If we head west, we hit the primeval forest. The game is heavy, and the distance is long. Do you have ammo? They had encountered plenty of game, as spring was the mating season, even for tigers. Huzi handed over a box of bullets. I brought an extra box. Take it. I counted. Huzi had 13 left. I split them, keeping 21 for myself and giving Huzi the rest, secretly keeping one in my chamber. You're the better shot, brother you. 13 is enough for me. I insisted on the split. I didn't want to leave game behind on the way back. I loaded my rifle, and we shouldered our haul. We'll head west along Shirley Slope. Can we find the path? They were currently on the opposite side of where I'd hunted the tiger. If we backtrack, we'll find no game. We've already scared them off. But if we loop toward the creek where I killed the tiger, we might find more. It's a longer route, but worth it. No pain, no gain. Let's go. Huzi carried 50 pounds. I carried over 200. I bundled the carcasses with rope and hoisted them onto my shoulders, marching west. They moved in single file, navigating thorns without free hands. I suddenly stopped, sniffing the air. I smell game. I dropped my load and grabbed my rifle, heading north. Huzi followed. They reached a ridge and looked down. Jackpot! A sounder of wild boars. It was the same group they'd tracked earlier, led by a large boar, though they'd only caught a piglet before. They'd lost the wolf and the main group earlier. This was a second chance. Check your ammo. On my count, we strike. Wild boars were skittish and fast. If they fled into the deep forest, tracking them would be impossible, especially with my heavy load. I relied on my sixth sense to track prey. I had to be careful not to make Huzi suspect I was possessed by a ghost. I remained vigilant, hiding my extraordinary eyesight from Huzi to avoid suspicion. 5 rounds loaded and chambered, ready to fire. I noted, having already prepared my rifle. Huzi, it's time to test your speed. The boars are 15 meters away in the clearing. We have 5 seconds before they vanish into the brush. They'll be gone in 5 seconds, so we must be fast and accurate. No room for blind firing, understand? Understood. They knelt, leveled their rifles, and counted down. 3, 2, 1. As the count hit 1, I fired. They had pre-agreed on targets, but the second shots would be opportunistic as the boars scattered. Bang! Bang! Both fired simultaneously. My hand moved with lightning speed, chambering and firing my second shot in one fluid motion. Bang! I fired a third time as the boars reached the 15-meter mark, though only their hindquarters were visible. Bang! My fourth shot hit the mark. A scream erupted from the brush as I successfully struck a boar in the neck. Let's go check. I scored 4 kills, the last being a blind shot based on pure instinct as the boars fled. Within 5 seconds, the entire herd of over a dozen boars had vanished. Haha, brother, I got 2. I had targeted the largest boar, the Paolon-Z, knowing a headshot was necessary to prevent it from running off to die elsewhere. They couldn't abandon their morning catch to track a wounded beast, so I took the lead on the largest target, while Huzi focused on the biggest sow. Both men secured the largest specimens. Huzi aimed for the sow's belly to ensure a hit. Brother, we've got 6 boars total. How are we going to carry them back? I realized the sheer weight, nearly 2,000 pounds of meat, made transport impossible for just the 2 of them. Even with my strength, I wasn't a mythical hero. I couldn't haul 2,000 pounds alone. We'll move them to a central spot. You guard them, and I'll go back to call for help. I hauled the 500-pound Paolon-Z toward their original stash, bringing my personal haul to over 1,000 pounds. The total haul included the Paolon-Z, a 400-pound sow, and 3 smaller boars of 300, 200, and 100 pounds. The combined weight reached 1,300 pounds. Huzi added his own haul, a 400-pound sow and a 280-pound boar, totaling over 700 pounds. Phew, I'm exhausted after moving these 60 meters. We'll never get them all back alone. Stop complaining. I'll carry the Paolon-Z back now, so we don't have to worry about it later. You're carrying the biggest one alone? Are you sure? Huzi knew I was strong, but he still marveled at my capabilities. I'll be fine. You stay here, keep your gun ready, and climb a tree if predators approach. Don't worry, I'll keep watch. Stay alert. The blood scent will draw predators. Keep your gun in hand at all times. I know. Rest up, I'll be on guard. Go ahead. I nodded and headed back. I took a shortcut, covering the 2-mile return trip efficiently. I avoided the overgrown path, opting for a direct route to the north. I rested for a minute every mile, taking over an hour to return to Sanshuiwan. My incredible stamina carried me through, though I knew the fatigue would hit me the next day. Phew, let's go. After a brief rest at the mountain's base, I headed straight home. I greeted the workers near my house and slipped inside. Wow. Third brother, you caught a wild boar. Su Jing and Yaya ran out. Yadu, go to the fields and get big brother, brother Daong, and third uncle if he's home. Go quickly, and I'll stew meat for you tonight. Lured by the promise of meat, the girls rushed off to the fields. I grabbed a drink and a smoke before heading to Huzi's home. Auntie, is Uncle Dihai home? Huzi's mother and brother, Xiaoben, came out to greet him. He's patrolling the fields, should be back soon. What's wrong? Huzi and I caught too much game to carry back. I need help. Huzi's mother was stunned. If I couldn't carry it, the haul must be massive. Xiaoben, go get your father and call Qiangzi too. Is that enough help, Suyu? Xiangzi was a fellow clansman who often assisted with family matters. In their village, clansmen were expected to support each other during weddings, funerals, and major tasks. That should be enough. Go, Xiaobin. 15-year-old Xiaobin sprinted off. Auntie, I'm heading back. Tell my uncle to bring the men to my place. I returned home and grabbed Su Jin, who was busy reading. Suyu, I heard you caught a Pao Lan Zi. Shenguer arrived, eyes widening at the massive boar in the yard. He was thrilled to see such a prize in person. You should gut it now before the meat spoils, Shenguer suggested. As I started, the rest of the men arrived. Good haul, Suyu. You've struck it rich. Stop teasing, Xiangzi. I'm exhausted from dragging this back. I handed out cigarettes, and the group of 8, including Su Jin and Su Xiaobin, set off into the mountains. They had already agreed on how to handle the catch before departing. I led the way with a rifle and machete, while Su Dihai brought up the rear with his own rifle to protect the group. Caution was necessary to avoid any regrets. The 5-kilometer trek was manageable for these able-bodied men. Huzi, patrolling the area, raised his rifle at the sound of footsteps, only lowering it once he recognized me. The 9 men reunited. Su Daong was stunned by the mountain of game piled up. I urged them to hurry, telling Su Jin and Su Xiaobin to carry the lighter pheasants and rabbits. Of the 9, only 7 were adults. I had 800 jin of game left, and Huzi had 700. I could carry 500 jin, and Su Shang could manage 300. The remaining 7 men split Huzi's 700 jin. Su Shang, despite his 1.95 m frame, lacked the endurance for heavy loads over long distances. Even someone like Huang Shan would struggle with endurance. Lifting weight is different from carrying it for miles. Third uncle and Su Daong each took 150 jin, leaving Su Shang with 200 jin, which he could manage with breaks. I checked my status, level 19, high physical stats, and various skills like archery, LV9, and tracking, LV7. I had 147 skill points. This hunt was a massive success, netting 147 points, my first time breaking 100. I was tempted to push archery past level 9, even if it cost 100 points, just to see what lay beyond that wall. However, I decided to wait, fearing the potential commotion of a breakthrough while surrounded by others. I reminded myself to stay calm. I marched on with my 500 jin load, unfazed, while Su Sheng struggled with his 200 jin. The others, carrying lighter loads, fared better than the trio. Su Sheng finally collapsed, exhausted, forcing the group to stop. The others followed suit, dropping their loads to rest. I handed out cigarettes and matches to Third Uncle. As the group gathered, Third Uncle distributed the smokes. Third Uncle warned that their massive haul would be hard to hide and asked how I planned to handle the village's reaction. I realized the potential for jealousy. Third Uncle explained that to keep the peace, they needed to bleed a little. If they didn't share, the village might force them to surrender all future catches to the collective. Huzi was outraged at the idea of handing over their hard-earned catch. His father slapped him on the back of the head. His father scolded him for questioning the collective system. Huzi fell silent under his father's glare. His father explained that in the past, even a single fish had to be turned over to the brigade. The village only allowed individual cooking because it was small and the educated youth had demanded it. While the village had a tacit understanding regarding hunters, it wasn't official policy. If someone made an issue of it, the collective rules would prevail. I decided to donate my 500 jin boar to the village collective to keep the peace. I understood the era's politics. The village was small enough to have been granted an exception for individual cooking, but it was still technically a collective. Larger villages still operated under the big pot rice system. Third Uncle reiterated that without a gesture of goodwill, they risked losing their ability to hunt for profit. The group, all kin, appreciated my pragmatism. Huzi, pained, agreed to donate his 400 jin sow. He didn't want to be targeted by the village. His father approved, noting that it was the right move for a militia member. They resumed their trek, arriving at Sanshuiwan just before sunset, 2 hours later. I immediately took the 500 jin boar to the village chief's home. I explained the situation to Su Daqiang, hoping the leadership would help suppress any further demands. If pushed too hard, I would retaliate, causing chaos in the village. Soon, Huzi and his father delivered their 400 jin sow, and the village was notified of a communal pork feast. I still had 800 gene of game remaining. This included smaller boars, roe deer, wolves, and various small game. Huzi was left with 300 gene of mixed game. I urged Su Sheng to help process the meat quickly so I could sell it in the city. The men set to work with their knives, processing the remaining 800 gene. Sister-in-law, stop fussing. Just boil some water for plucking. We'll all head to the square for the collective meal tonight. Bring our own dry rations. The village provides the pork and cabbage soup. Since it's our contribution, we might as well enjoy it. Li Xiuqin beamed. She was thrilled. Her brother-in-law was incredible. 800 pounds of meat was enough to feast on for days. No wonder the Su family was so prosperous. It was all thanks to me. All right, I'll handle the water. You go rest. You've made 2 trips today. You must be exhausted. I smiled and nodded. Su Sheng curled his lip. With my immense strength, exhaustion was hardly a concern. Third uncle, take some meat home for third aunt to nourish herself. Take whatever you like, don't be a stranger. Brother, once you're done, take a chicken, a rabbit, and 10 pounds of roe deer meat to Changzi's place. I'll leave that to you. I didn't worry about the third uncle. Su Sheng would handle it. I excused myself to my room to rest. Knowing I had carried 500 pounds of traps, and then 500 pounds of game over 5 kilometers, Su Sheng, Su Daong, and third uncle Su Yuanzheng didn't object to me resting. Huzi was equally busy, though he only had 300 pounds of game to manage with his father. Take some meat to Qiangzi. We invited him, so we must follow proper etiquette. Huzi agreed, and the two continued their work. Inside my room, I opened the system, determined to break through my archery level. System, upgrade archery to level 9. Host, I, age 19, physique 18, strength 27, speed 20, stamina 22. Inventory, 3 cubic meters of space. Skills, fishing 4-3, archery limit break 4-1, tracking 4-7, dog training 4-1, combat fighting 4-4, butchery 4-7, rock climbing 4-7, marksmanship 4-8, carpentry 4-5, parkour 4-7. Skill points, 47. Instantly, my archery shifted to archery limit break 4-1. I briefly worried it had downgraded before noticing the limit break tag. Wait, something else appeared. I noticed a new inventory section showing 3 cubic meters. Testing it, I realized I could store and retrieve items at will. I eagerly tested it. My Mauser rifle vanished into my mental space. I suppressed a laugh, not wanting to seem insane to those outside. I spent my remaining 47 points, marksmanship to 4-9, fishing to 4-4, and dog training to 4-3. Host, I, age 19, physique 18, strength 27, speed 20, stamina 22. Inventory, 3 cubic meters. Skills, fishing 4-4, archery limit break 4-1, tracking 4-7, dog training 4-3, combat fighting 4-4, butchery 4-7, rock climbing 4-7, marksmanship 4-9, carpentry 4-5, parkour 4-7. Skill points, 0, few, all skills are at least 4-3. Much better. I needed the dog training for Heizi. I couldn't rely on my own nose forever, or Huzi would grow suspicious. Being rumored to have a dog's nose wouldn't be pleasant. As for fishing, a change of diet was always welcome. Third brother, I went to give Qiangzi meat, but his father refused, saying they already accepted Huzi's share and didn't want to look greedy. Fair enough. I only suggested it because I feared Huzi might forget, but if his father remembers, that's fine. What about third uncle's family? Su Xing shook his head. I already gave Daong 20 pounds of roe deer, a chicken, and a rabbit before they left. That's plenty. They were close kin, and without storage, too much meat would spoil. Third uncle knew I needed the rest to supplement their income. Even with my new 3 cubic meter space, I couldn't explain how I'd keep the meat fresh. I would store a little, but not enough to raise questions. Did third uncle and Daong leave? Yes. Mother is helping the village chief cook. I told Lao Si to steam the buns. Bring your own stools and bowls to the square. I nodded. I had to attend. Not showing up would make them look stingy. In this era, being an outcast was dangerous. Look at how those labeled bad elements were treated. The bell rang. Lao Si packed the buns, bowls, and stools for mom and dad. Let's go. Seeing his brother's urgency, I sighed. Let's move. Carrying my younger sister and Yaya, I headed to the square, spotting my father being intercepted by the village party secretary. Everyone quiet down. A few words before we eat. The crowd fell silent. Su Daqiang was respected for his fairness. This pork was caught by me and Huzi. They've contributed 900 pounds to the collective. We'll eat 200 pounds tonight across 10 pots. Everyone will be full. The remaining 700 pounds will be distributed later. Let's put it to a vote. I won't make unilateral decisions. I marveled at Su Daqiang's political savvy. No wonder he remained the village party secretary. The vote passed easily. Distribution would happen later. Before we eat, let's hear from me and Huzi. A round of applause. The crowd erupted in cheers. Caught off guard, I had to take the stage with Huzi. The old party secretary is putting us on the spot. We're just local kids, what is there to say? But since he asked, I'll be brief so we can eat. The crowd laughed. My family is growing, and we need to build a house. I had to ask relatives for help. My uncle Zheng and his crew helped out. They aren't familiar with our village, so please bear with any mistakes. They've worked hard all day. Can we let them join us for a bowl of soup? Is that all right? Faced with my direct question, the villagers couldn't refuse. With 10 pots of soup, a few extra bowls wouldn't hurt. Go ahead. Since you and Huzi provided the pork, consider these relatives as our own. The villagers agreed. Sui was honest and reliable, and with his son's Ai and Su Sheng now adults, no one wanted to offend their family. Uncle Zheng, who had planned to leave after his shift, was moved. Though this was a village event, they were treated as family and given a hot meal. From tomorrow on, work hard. Don't slack off. Our host is generous, so we must be diligent. Though the term host was old-fashioned, the crew agreed with his sentiment. Everyone nodded in agreement. Uncle, don't worry. Since he treats us like kin, we'll do a great job. Let's fill the entire yard now, so he won't have to do it later. Uncle Zheng hesitated, calculating the cost of labor, 3 yuan a day for 10 men. But with his nephew having spoken, he couldn't back down and reluctantly agreed. I and Huzi finished our speeches, and the village head signaled for dinner. Women served the food, having already set aside their own portions. Within half an hour, everyone was served. Uncle Zheng's crew was last, and the women gave them extra meat. I, Huzi, Su Sheng, Su Xiaobin, Su Jin, De Yong, my younger sister, and Yaya sat together, eating cabbage and pork soup. Wang Keizi's cooking is excellent. The wild boar has no gamey smell at all. Wang Keizi was a live-in son-in-law with a limp and a talent for cooking, often hired for village events. He was the designated cook for all village affairs, earning a full meal and a portion to take home. It's delicious, better than Mom's, the younger sister exclaimed. I patted her head, warning her not to let our mother hear that. Eat slowly, Yaya. Second brother will get you more if you need it. Yaya had been eating well lately and was visibly healthier. I planned to keep her until she gained more weight. Yaya, eat up, Huzi said, then turned to me. Are we heading to town tomorrow to see Wei Huide? I nodded. We must. It's getting warm, and the meat won't last. Prepare the donkey cart. Village livestock were collective property. Buying one for personal use was rare and often drew unnecessary scrutiny. Still, having a cart was convenient for market trips and visiting relatives. I'll have my dad borrow it tomorrow. Huzi's father was in the militia, making it easier for him to secure the cart, which was a vital production tool. Livestock like donkeys and oxen were treated as precious assets. Thanks to Uncle Su Dihai then, I said. After eating, I bid farewell to Uncle Zheng as they prepared to return to Zhengjia Village. I noticed my eldest uncle watching Uncle Zheng intently, likely suspicious of their connection. I wasn't worried. Without evidence of paid labor, my uncle couldn't touch me. The next day, Huzi arrived with the donkey cart and 300 pounds of meat. Ready, Yuji? I've got the cart. I asked how much he planned to sell. Mom kept 10 pounds of fat. I'm selling the rest. I kept the offal for us. I'm keeping 100 pounds and selling 700, I said. Huzi was surprised, wondering how I'd store it. I'm going to Huangjia Village to deliver some and discuss getting our marriage certificate and hosting a banquet. Huzi was confused, as I had previously planned to wait until next month. My dad wanted to wait for the gift money, but I don't care about that. After yesterday's feast, the village will definitely attend if I hold the wedding now. I just need the crowd. Huzi remembered my wealth from selling the tiger and understood. Are you just rushing because you're jealous of Shungur? Huzi teased. I rolled my eyes, ignoring the comment. Don't ignore me. You're 19 and getting pimples. You must be hearing things you shouldn't. I slapped Huzi's head. Stop joking about my sister-in-law, or my brother will beat you. Su Sheng was known for his temper, though he had become more composed over the years. All right, I'll help you load up. They loaded the meat, using a cloth to separate their respective shares. Did you clean the cart? I asked. The cart was often used to haul manure for the fields. I wiped it down and laid out urea bags. It's clean. I nodded. Without the cart, I would have had to reveal my space to transport 1,000 pounds of meat. Ug, look, trouble's coming. Several men were approaching them. Are you comrades Su Yu and Su Xiaohu? We're from the town police station. We need to ask you about Su Xiaoya falling into the water yesterday. 2 officers stood by, flanked by my eldest uncle and aunt. It was clear the police had been tipped off by the Su family. Su Fuguei ignored me, but Zheng Xiaolian glared at me with pure hatred. Public security officers often rely on intimidation and bluffing to extract confessions. If a suspect is stubborn, officers might resort to physical force, gambling that a confession will shield them from disciplinary action. However, unauthorized physical interrogation carries risks. While some officers thrive on such tactics, others prefer caution. Before formal bans on corporal punishment, the environment was a gamble where only the bold, or reckless, reaped rewards. Can we take the donkey cart? I asked. We need to leave it at the station, as we have other errands after this. The officers agreed. Shortly after, Su Xiaoya and her friend arrived. Su Yu. Huzi, I was too shaken after falling into the water yesterday to thank you properly. Please don't mind. Huzi and I waved it off, but her friend tugged her arm, signaling caution. We remained suspects until the investigation concluded. I understood the subtext, though Huzi didn't. I ignored it and invited them onto the donkey cart to save them the walk. The donkey could handle the weight. The 2 women sat on the cart side railings. Huzi and I walked to avoid overloading the thin tires, ensuring the cart wouldn't break. Why be so polite? Huzi whispered. We saved her life, and she's wasting our time. Control your expression, comrade Su Xiaohu. I warned, keeping my voice low. Watch your attitude, or the police will make things difficult. I led the donkey, keeping a close eye on our demeanor. Without modern forensics like fingerprints or surveillance, police relied on intuition and the suspect's attitude. If we appeared hostile toward the victim, it would look suspicious. If we acted poorly, our claim of saving her would seem like a cover-up for pushing her in. We entered the station and were questioned separately to verify our statements. I provided an alibi. I was supervising construction when Huzi came to get me for hunting. If I had pushed her, it would have been an impulsive act, which contradicts the lack of motive or coordination with Huzi. It made no sense for us to conspire to harm her. With no logical motive or benefit, we were cleared and released shortly after. Let's go, I said. I don't want to spend another minute here. Straight to the steel factory. We left the station, retrieved the cart, and headed out. Having navigated the route once before, we reached the outskirts of the town quickly. Huzi, watch the cart. I'll talk to the guard. I jumped off, had the guard notify Zheng Huaid, and was soon escorted into the steel factory. What kind of meat did you bring? Zheng asked, eyeing the covered cart. He assumed we were selling surplus from the village hunt. The sheer volume of game was hard to believe for just 2 people. Roe deer, muntjac, wild boar, pheasant, and rabbit, all fresh from yesterday, I replied. After exchanging pleasantries and cigarettes, we met Wei Huaid at the kitchen. We weighed the haul, 700 pounds from me and 300 from Huzi. Wei explained that the logistics director needed a win to secure a promotion to the new branch factory. The director lacked production experience, so he had to excel in logistics and management to prove his worth. This 1,000 pounds of meat is a godsend, Wei said. It'll make the workers happy and prove the director's competence. To keep you coming back, he's authorized a price increase. I'm handling the negotiation. I remained silent, unsure if Wei was genuinely helping or playing a game. I waited for him to continue. Your 700 pounds would usually fetch 500 yuan, but I'll give you 600. The vice factory director is footing the bill. And for Huzi's 300 pounds, I'm bumping it from 240 to 275 yuan. The math was generous, well above market rates. The extra money was significant, especially for Huzi's share. Isn't that too high, Brother Wei? I asked. The increase was substantial, particularly for Huzi's smaller portion. It was far above the price of standard pork. Take it, Wei insisted. The director needs this meat to look good. He won't let you leave empty-handed. A logistics director has the budget. He'd pay out of pocket rather than lose this opportunity. Trusting Wei's character and his connection to my senior, I agreed. I nodded, feeling relieved. Wei went to clear the price with the director, claiming I wouldn't sell for less. The director agreed without appearing. Wei and Zheng declined my offer to treat them, citing work. 275 yuan. Huzi exclaimed. I didn't expect that much. I was calmer, holding my 600 yuan. My total savings were now 5,300 yuan. Let's go to town, I said. Time to shop. For what? Huzi asked. Wedding supplies, I replied. We can't waste this trip. We bought basins, combs, bedding, candy, red candles, a women's watch, a sewing machine, a radio, and 200 pounds of grain. I used my remaining grain coupons to secure the supplies. Huzi covered the goods to keep them hidden. The watch, radio, and sewing machine alone cost 508 yuan. My total savings dropped back down to 4,800 yuan. I and Huzi returned from the commune. Huzi had just sold the animal skins, and I waited on the donkey cart. Huzi handed over 23.5 yuan, insisting I take it all since I provided the hunting expertise. It was true. While Huzi had the gun, hunting success relied on tracking skills, not just marksmanship. With average wages around 20 yuan, a good hunting dog could cost 70 to over 100 yuan. A good dog was essential. Otherwise, a hunter was just relying on luck, often returning empty-handed. I refused the cash, telling Huzi to spend it all on snacks and canned goods at the coop to share between our families for the children. This meant 10 yuan worth of snacks per family, half a month's wages for Su father. I preferred sharing goods over cash, as Huzi would never accept money, but would accept food for his sisters. Huzi agreed and hurried off. He returned shortly with 2 large net bags full of goods. I told Huzi to drive the cart directly into the courtyard to unload. To avoid multiple trips and unwanted attention, they drove the cart through the gate. It was lunchtime. The whole family, Sheng, Li Xiuqin, Su Jin, little sister Su Jing, and their mother, came out to see the commotion. My mother asked why I had returned with so many supplies. Huzi blurted out that I was rushing to prepare for my wedding. I glared at Huzi for his loose lips, then told the family to help unload and gave snacks to my younger sister and niece. My mother took the large bag of snacks, grumbling but distributing them to the children. The family and Huzi worked together to move the rest of the supplies. Seeing the radio and sewing machine, Sheng was stunned, asking if I was being reckless. I explained the items cost 500 yuan, but I had earned 600 from selling meat, so it was a fair trade. I lamented that I had been forced to hand over 500 caddies of game to the village, which could have easily covered these costs. Sheng patted my shoulder, noting that one must adapt to the era's constraints rather than dwell on them. I realized that in any era, survival depends on adapting to the prevailing rules. Huzi left without eating, eager to deliver the snacks to his own sisters. My mother worried about the grain storage, but I insisted on keeping the white flour in my room to protect it from rats. I instructed my sister-in-law to take some of the remaining meat home. With arrangements made, I retreated to my room. I tallied my remaining funds, 4,700 yuan, after buying the wedding essentials. That afternoon, I visited Huangjia Village to deliver meat and finalize wedding plans. Huang Sui had a reputation as a seductress, so her family was eager to marry her off to secure her future. In this era, reputation and class status were paramount, often outweighing wealth. I proposed registering the marriage tomorrow and holding the ceremony the day after. Old man Huang agreed, grateful for my past help and impressed by my character. Huang Shan, though tough, struggled to accept his sister leaving. Huang Hai was equally emotional, his voice choking with tears. Old man Huang scolded his sons for their unmanly display. I found the scene slightly awkward but respected their protective nature. Huang Sui was tearful, knowing the engagement would lead to a swift marriage, as was the custom. Engagement was a financial burden due to constant gift-giving requirements. Marriage was more practical. Pre-wedding formalities were grand, but post-marriage life focused on substance. I wanted a private moment with Sui, but her brothers remained oblivious, so I departed. Back home, I cooked dinner before my father returned. Su's father was stunned to learn the wedding preparations were already complete. He felt sidelined, realizing his son had bypassed his authority in building the house and planning the wedding. Su's father felt like a failure, realizing his son didn't trust him enough to consult him. I had handled everything independently, including my brother's wedding, gaining significant experience. Su's father felt like a mere figurehead, only involved when I deemed it necessary. Knowing the cause of this distance, Su's father kept his resentment to himself. Sensing my father's mood, I offered him a role, negotiating the banquet with the village head. This was a gesture to give my father a sense of purpose. Su's father agreed, relieving the tension. Everyone was glad the father didn't refuse the request. I didn't mean to be cruel. I simply viewed my father as an unpredictable variable that had to be excluded to ensure success. Like a commander excluding an unreliable battalion from his battle plans, I had learned to act alone. It was a habit formed over years of neglect. The next day was ordinary for Sanshuiwan, but for me, it was my wedding day, a chance to build the home I never dared to create in my past life. In this life, I would change everything. Mentally decades older, I had little resistance to a girl like Huang Sui. Men stay drawn to 18-year-olds no matter their age. Huang Sui was exactly 18, pretty, well-shaped, with a slim waist and a full figure. A dream wife by 20th century standards, though taste here differed. Square faces and sturdy builds meant good fortune then. Delicate, frail looks were feared to starve first in famine. Taste follows need. Only with food secured can people talk of ideals. Hunger makes all that empty talk. Huang Sui wasn't unwelcome. Her looks would shine in Shanghai, where no one fretted whether a slim frame could farm, survive famine, or bear sons. Lin Daiyu's fragile beauty sparks protectiveness, but as a wartime 8th Route Army field nurse her slow ways would only drag others down. Needs shape beauty. Tang favored fuller figures because fullness meant eating well was normal, not a fetish for fat. Chow Chow was said to like married women, but brides were 15 or 16, wives 20 or 30. He simply said aloud what others wouldn't. Finally married. From today you're my woman, understand? Huang Sui rolled her eyes at the bossy act and held out her hand. What do you want? The gift you promised once I married you. With the introduction letter and papers from the Civil Affairs Bureau done, we were family. Kiss me, and I'll give it. I grinned and stared. She knew I wasn't bad, and tomorrow night would settle things, but being looked over still unsettled her. Humph, forget it then. She tossed her braid and walked off, skipping the bike. I couldn't let her hike home from the county town, so I pushed the bike after her to coax her. In the end, I took a lady's watch from System Space, smaller and finer than a man's, both with luminous dials. Daylight charged it so you could read time at night without a lamp. Novelty for this era. I slipped it on her wrist and stole a quick kiss as interest. Tomorrow night, I already had plans to teach her more. She pouted until I coaxed her onto the bike. At 18, she wanted sweet romance. I indulged. A woman of 30 wouldn't fuss this way, but it wouldn't feel the same. With Huang Sui, I could shape our life myself. A worldly widow would understand more, but the pride of building it myself was different. As the saying goes, joining in matters. Marrying tomorrow, excited? Not excited. A bit nervous. True enough, she'd barely left home, so sudden marriage felt strange. Along the way, I soothed her with soft words, pre-wedding jitters. She'd left her comfort zone with little security. She knew I was decent, but little else. In this era, few brides truly knew their husbands. Dragging it out half a year would look improper. After seeing Huang Sui home, I raced back to the village, handed Mother the marriage certificate for everyone to pass around, and finished my job. Good. Good. My third son settled and building a life. Mother's voice caught. She'd cried at eldest uncle's wedding too. I got it, and with eldest uncle and sister-in-law we calmed her. Once she settled, we set up the house. Lao Si moved in with our sister and cleared the room. Lao Si grumbled. He'd lost his room and would endure eldest uncles and my noise at night. But he couldn't win a fight, so he kept quiet. You married so fast with no furniture. Won't the Huang family mind? Furniture? Easy. Mother nearly warned me. I cut in. Mother, I won't cause trouble. Just watch. I borrowed Huzi's donkey cart. went to town, and returned after dark with it loaded full of furniture. Third brother, you bought furniture in town? It's all used. Will they accept that? Liu Yuji feared the Huang family would compare it to eldest uncle's new set and feel their daughter was slighted. Mother, leave it to me. Trust me. For this I'd gone to the steel mill, found Wei Huaid and Zhengyu Kingdom, treated them, and brought gifts. Last time they'd won us dozens of yuan extra and refused to cut, so returns were due. I hadn't known their addresses. This time I used the favor as an excuse and brought cigarettes and liquor. The furniture was confiscated stock, pear wood and rosewood. New pieces couldn't compare. You couldn't just buy it. It sat in a warehouse. With an introduction from the big steel mill, though, a few pieces were no problem. Art and antiques were out of reach, furniture wasn't. The flea market had junk too, but warehouse goods were another class entirely. I loaded the cart full. Huzi and I ran alongside. No room to sit. At the Huang family home, it was restless too. Huang Sui told them what I'd said, skipping the mushiest lines but covering the rest. Hearing the son-in-law had given her a watch, plus a sewing machine and radio, old Huang was pleased. It showed the Su family valued her, and the gifts were hers anyway. So fine, look at this watch. No son-in-law in Huangjiao village has been this generous. Huang Shan and Huang Hai snorted. She was their sister. Only knowing she'd marry and that they knew me kept them from objecting, and old Huang still decided. Mother praising me still stung. Next to their sister, those gifts felt like nothing. You two just standing there? Tomorrow your sister marries. Is everything for sending her off arranged? Like my side, the Huang family would host courtyard guests, not grand, but sending a daughter off still needed a proper meal. Don't worry. The village had already settled it with father. Food's ready. We start at dawn. Nothing will go wrong. Sour as they felt, the brothers knew priorities and obeyed. Next day my house was packed. More helpers than at Shang Guer's wedding. Thanks to the pork I'd contributed. Same crowd, new groom. The bridal escort team was unchanged. Enough chatter. The pickup matched Shang Guer's, so the details pass in a line. Today wasn't as calm. Aunt, eldest, came to make trouble while I sat on the bed holding Huang C's hand, calming her nerves after she'd cried leaving the Huang gate. Lao Si burst in panting. Brat, what are you running in for? I'd just taken Huang Sui's hand for a light kiss when Su Jin interrupted. My mood soured at once. Cough. Third brother, aunt, eldest, is outside cursing in the street. Wanna look? I frowned. Where's the village head? Didn't he step in? You see, weddings and funerals are major events. It's hard for the village chief to stay out of them, as many things require his coordination, such as organizing the labor, deciding who is responsible for going door to door to borrow tables, chairs, benches, bowls, dishes, and chopsticks. All of this must be properly arranged. Who should step forward? Naturally, it cannot be the family itself. It requires someone of high prestige in the courtyard to oversee and coordinate. No, the village chief finds it difficult to speak on this matter. He is the one who sent me to call you. Even the village chief can't handle it? I was somewhat surprised. One must know that the village chief's prestige is not just for show. Although aunt, eldest, is a stubborn, shameless woman, she wouldn't dare do anything to the village chief. Suyu, you should go out and take a look. If she keeps making such a scene outside, you'll become a laughingstock. I patted Huang Sui's hand, offered a few words of comfort, and walked out. As I walked, I asked, what exactly is going on? I had noticed earlier that Lao Si was hesitant to speak. There was definitely something being hidden that wasn't convenient to say in front of Huang Sui. Aunt, eldest, was blocked by the village chief not far from our front door, but she is still being relentless, saying you committed hooliganism, kissed the educated youth Su, and are now acting like Chinshimi. Damn it. I felt the urge to curse. Now I understood why even the village chief couldn't handle it. The crime of hooliganism is a catch-all charge. Anything can be stuffed into it. If someone reports it and the village chief ignores it, he might as well stop being the village party secretary. After all, current policy treats hooliganism as a crime that can be interpreted as either minor or major. In serious cases, execution is not considered excessive. If you dare to forcibly kiss a girl in the street, you go straight to the firing squad, regardless of whether you intended to go further. That's just how it is. At its worst, Even the grandson of a high-ranking official was taken to the firing squad. Do you know how determined the state is? It's no wonder Aunt, eldest, dares to make such a scene. Both sides are her enemies. One is Su Xiaoya, the culprit who sent her son to prison, and the other is I, the accomplice who added insult to injury. It would be a miracle if she didn't make a huge fuss. Furthermore, only a few people knew I performed artificial respiration on Su Xiaoya. Su Xiaoya wouldn't go around talking about it, and Huzi wouldn't either. Therefore, the person who spread this must be one of the 3 female educated youth from that day. After all, there is no entertainment at this time. Gossip is the only form of entertainment. For Zheng Xiaoyan, both I and Su Xiaoya are hated to the bone. Because of us, she can't even return to her maiden home. After all, thanks to her, her own niece became famous throughout the village and nearly died. Later, the commune stepped in and contacted the male educated youth's factory. Since they haven't responded yet, they are like criminals waiting for their verdict. Can you say Zheng Xiaoyan doesn't hate me? And because Su Xiaoya caused her son to face imprisonment, she hates her just as much. No matter which one of us has bad luck, she is happy. Why did she get the news so quickly? It's because she has been intentionally keeping an eye on the educated youth. Otherwise, in such a short time, why would she know so early when so many people in Sanshuiwan Village didn't? Clearly, Zheng Xiaoyan has been monitoring the situation with the educated youth. Village chief, what's going on? I strode toward the village party secretary and asked only after getting close. Su father, the eldest uncle, and the third uncle were standing nearby. My father and third uncle were trying to persuade her, but it had no effect. Instead, they were mocked. As for the eldest uncle, it was good enough that he didn't kick them while they were down. One shouldn't expect him to help persuade her. Come, everyone in the village. The main character is here. Suyu, you little brat, tell everyone yourself. Did you or did you not kiss the educated youth Su? And now you're turning around to marry someone else? If that's not hooliganism, what is? Village party secretary, you cannot favor this kid. It will be bad for your future work. The implication was that he must be fair and impartial to command respect. Otherwise, who in the village would obey him in the future? Who said I kissed the educated youth Su? You can't just slander people's reputations. Whoever said it, stand out and confront me face to face. How come I don't know I kissed the educated youth Su? Of course, I wouldn't admit it. Only a fool would. Firstly, if you admit it, regardless of whether you were saving a life. Even if the higher-ups understand it was artificial respiration, so what? The fact remains that you kissed her. Do common people care about the truth? No, they care about whether there is gossip to talk about. Secondly, at this juncture, if you admit it, how would that make Huang Sui feel? So I denied it outright. Zheng Xiaoyan, did you hear that? If you have any evidence, bring it out. Don't drag this out. People are trying to hold a wedding here. What does it look like for people from other villages to see you blocking the way like this? Sanshuiwan is very close to Meijiawan. When people here give out candy for a wedding, people from across the way come to join the fun, so the village chief's words were not without reason. That's simple. Just have him confront Su Xiaoya, and we'll know, right? Don't you all agree? Zheng Xiaoyan didn't care if I was ultimately convicted of hooliganism, because she knew it wouldn't succeed. Not to mention what she had heard, that I was saving a life, something called artificial respiration. Even if it weren't, Su Xiaoya wouldn't admit it, because if she did, her own reputation would be ruined. But as long as she is willing to come and confront me, it creates a spectacle that makes everyone know about it, and that it was her aunt, eldest's pure fabrication. She wants me to have a miserable time, for example, making my bride dissatisfied, or having them divorce the day after the wedding. Village chief, what do you say? Do we really need to call Su Xiaoya? She's a young, unmarried girl. If we call her here for a confrontation, won't it be bad for her reputation? And I am in the middle of my wedding. The person speaking was Huzi's father. He is in the militia and has a duty to assist the village chief in carrying out work in the village. He wasn't just messing around, nor was he blindly following the village chief. The militia also answers to the commune. Then what should we do? She's made such a big scene, and everyone is watching. If I refuse, others will suspect I'm covering for him, and that reputation would be even worse. I heard all of their whispers. I am a man with my 6 senses fully opened. Aunt, eldest, what are your intentions? Everyone in the village knows that the educated youth Sue sent your son to the police station, but she is the victim. You are being so relentless. What is your motive? My words successfully pulled everyone's thoughts back. That's right. They are enemies. It's very likely that Zheng Xiaolian is framing me. Bullshit. You kissed her, and you don't dare admit it? Zheng Xiaolian was furious. She had specifically verified this matter. It was absolutely true, and there was no way she could be wrong. That's not necessarily true. Aunt, eldest, who in the village doesn't know you can't distinguish right from wrong? Your son had evil intentions toward the educated youth Sue. I was kind-hearted, saw it, and informed the educated youth Sue of my suspicions. This is called upholding justice over family ties. This spirit has been recognized by higher-level leaders. Do you have an objection? I admitted that upholding justice over family ties is indeed disgusting because it goes against human nature. Human nature is inherently selfish and always has biases. But at this moment, no one dared to argue that it was wrong. If you dared to jump out and say, a son should not speak of his father's faults, a concept that has existed since ancient times, others would just say, comrade, your political awareness is lacking. Therefore, aunt, eldest, didn't dare to touch that topic. If she did, someone would come to have a talk with her, and she might even end up at a criticism meeting for having poor awareness. Besides, the educated youth Sue is clearly the victim, and you are still being relentless? You call her here, no matter the result. How will that make the educated youth Sue feel? And you say you don't have bad intentions? If you want a confrontation, tell us who you heard this from, and I'll confront her instead. Why don't you say? Could it be that you made all this up to intentionally cause trouble at my wedding? Once I said this, the village chief immediately knew what to do. That's right, Suyu is absolutely correct. Let him confront the person who spread the gossip. That's the same thing. As long as what he says is true, I will take charge and report it to the public security immediately to be handled by the police station. But if it's false, Zheng Xiaolian, then you are dissatisfied with the organization's verdict on your son, and I will have to have a serious talk with you about that. He was worthy of being a village chief. In one sentence, he made the situation clear. That's right, who told you? Say it. Let her come out and confront him. Isn't that enough? The crowd chimed in, but Zheng Xiaolian didn't want to say. She was counting on the person to provide her with more information. If the person were exposed, how would she get first-hand news in the future? Seeing her stammering, everyone knew she was likely lying. Just as I said, she was harboring a grudge and was taking revenge on me. Good heavens, it was rare for an aunt, eldest, to go this far. She was planning to kill two birds with one stone, to destroy both the educated youth and me. Unfortunately, she was framing us. Since you can't say, why are you spouting nonsense? Su Fugue, take your wife back. Write a self-criticism letter and give it to me tomorrow. Otherwise, this matter won't end today. The village party secretary waved his hand, signaling everyone to disperse. The crowd was very cooperative. Sure enough, they all ran off in a few minutes. Zheng Xiaolian wanted to keep them, but no one wanted to stay and listen to her nonsense. After all, the village chief had spoken. Staying would be a bit tactless. I didn't want to make a bigger scene, so I didn't press the issue. I just wanted to get through today peacefully. As for aunt, eldest, Zheng Xiaolian, I had plenty of time to deal with her. Although the matter was cleared up, the impact and discussion were significant. Many people were discussing it in small groups. This was one of Zheng Xiaolian's goals, to use such a disgusting method to let my bride know, to drag me into a whirlpool of public opinion, and thereby cause conflict between us. Regardless of whether there was evidence, as long as the public opinion was stirred up, her goal was achieved. Xiaoyu, don't take it to heart. Your aunt, eldest, is just that kind of person. It's not worth getting angry with her. Just focus on holding your wedding. By the way, when we read out the gift money later, your grandparents' side is easy to handle. Your father can just cover it. How are you going to handle your eldest uncle's side? Village chief, no need. You don't need to bother with my grandparents' side either. Just read it out as not in attendance. Don't joke. The first time, when the eldest brother got married, aunt, eldest, hadn't come to cause trouble yet. Although the villagers were suspicious, it wasn't entirely unbelievable. By the time it reached me, if I tried to fake it again, it would be pure self-deception. I, however, wasn't afraid of losing face. Since they weren't coming, I would put the fact that I had broken ties with the eldest uncle's family out in the open. Soo-hee this. The village chief looked at Su's father, asking for his opinion. Glancing at his son, Soo-hee felt a bit dejected, then said, "It's his wedding, listen to him." Soo-hee didn't argue with his son because even if the gift money were read out, the villagers wouldn't believe it. After what had just happened in front of everyone, they weren't fools. Fine then, I'll go tell old he to record it that way. The village chief didn't want to get involved in other people's family business. Since they had arranged it that way, he simply agreed. Soon, the bowing to heaven and earth, the bowing to parents, the bowing to each other, and the reading of the gift money took place. When it was mentioned that the grandparents, eldest uncle, and aunt, eldest, were absent, it did cause a small stir. But it quickly died down. After all, it was within everyone's expectations, and they had already guessed it. Finally, the village chief went on stage and shouted for the banquet to begin. The kitchen staff immediately started serving dishes. The standard was the same as the eldest brothers. Even if there was extra meat, I didn't add more. Don't joke, the sister-in-law hadn't been married long. If you really practiced favoritism, wouldn't that make people unhappy? Your younger daughter-in-law is a new bride, but isn't the elder daughter-in-law one too? Time flew by. The banquet ended, and by nightfall, we went to pay respects to the ancestors. When we returned, the villagers came to tease the bridal chamber. Huang Sui was shy the whole time, and I had to step up to handle it. Finally, with Huzi, Xiangzi, and De Yong dragging them away, the crowd finally dispersed. Phew, the wedding pranks in your village are too terrifying. They even wanted us to kiss. What were they thinking? It wasn't that Huang Sui hadn't been kissed by me. She didn't mind that, but she wouldn't accept kissing in public. Fortunately, I was well liked. I gave a look, and the crowd was dragged away. As for the wedding pranks involving taking advantage of someone, that didn't exist in this era. If you dared to do that, you'd be waiting for the firing squad. Regardless of your excuse, the law is the hard truth. Hooliganism. Who would dare to gamble? Who would dare touch the red line? I'm not afraid of kissing, but those bastards were really heavy-handed today. My inner thighs still hurt. Playing games, like having the bride and groom eat the same date. If you agreed to that right away, it wouldn't be any fun. Did they think everyone came to watch you perform a live erotic show? Stop kidding. If you dared to perform it directly, others might not dare to watch. So the newlyweds would definitely refuse. At this time, the young people in the village would start twisting the groom's ears and pinching his inner thighs. Whether this counts as a bad custom, I don't know, but that's how everyone in the village went through it. Their faces were also smeared with pot ash. In short, it was just to make them look a bit foolish, and everyone would laugh and play. In this era, no one dared to do anything to the bride, but they certainly dared to watch them play games like eating dates or kissing. I'm going to wash my face. You should take off your makeup too. Not long after, I brought a basin of water. I let Huang Sui remove her makeup first, and I washed my face last. Huang Sui only wore rouge, so the water wasn't dirty, but I had a face full of pot ash, so I washed last. After I took the foot-washing water out to pour it away, I brought back hot water. This was for soaking our feet. I brought over a chair, Huang Sui sat on the bed, and I sat opposite her. The two of us soaked our feet in one basin. At first, Huang Sui was unwilling, but under my persistent pulling, she finally put her little feet in, and then I put mine in too. What are you shy about? Are you naturally shy? From now on, you are my wife. You can't be this shy forever. Huang Sui pouted, but what I said was the truth. The two of us would eventually open up to each other. Being this shy was somewhat unnecessary. But for Huang Sui, this was her first wedding night, so it was normal for her to be unaccustomed to it. Unlike me, who had the mental age of someone several decades old, in my previous life, I had helped many young girls waiting for a kind soul to save them at their doorsteps, so I was very natural. What should we do next? I had just poured out the foot-washing water and returned. Huang Sui's body was instinctively tense. I closed the bedroom door, and Huang Sui became even more nervous. Oh, don't be nervous. Come, let me show you something. The watch we bought has a luminous dial. Let me show you my watch. I pulled Huang Sui onto the bed, turned off the light, covered us both with the quilt, and pulled her into the covers to look at the luminous mechanical watch. With the same movements and at the same time, in the younger sister's room, Lao Si ripped the quilt off. There was another bed across from his. In the same room, one bed on the left and one on the right, where the younger sister, Su Jing, was staying. Fourth brother, what's wrong? Can't you sleep? Looking at his younger sister, Lao Si Su Jing had a temper he couldn't vent, so he covered himself with the quilt again. One is the eldest brother, the other is the third brother. He had had enough. Bullying a minor, right? Just wait. In 5 years he'll have a wife too. Don't bully a young boy. It's nothing. Go to sleep. After offering a word of comfort, Lao Si dug a piece of cotton out of a hole in the quilt, split it in two, plugged his ears, covered himself with the quilt, and began to try to sleep. The next day, he came out with dark circles under his eyes. The eldest brother was fine. After all, he had eaten meat, but I had been waiting for a long time and couldn't be satisfied in a moment, so I had struggled for most of the night. The next day, I was walking while leaning against the wall, and Huang Sui was even worse, walking as if she were floating. The newlyweds walked out of the room, served tea to the elderly couple, and received the change of address money. For this wedding, the second sister had been picked up by the eldest brother, Su Sheng. Since the second brother-in-law had come along, they stayed at the third uncle's house because there wasn't enough room. If it weren't for the need to serve tea, neither Huang Sui nor I would have wanted to get up. We were just too exhausted. What followed was simple: serving tea. Around 9 or 10 o'clock, the new bride was led by the second sister to pay visits to the elders of the same clan within the 5 degrees of mourning. Old third, how do you feel? The eldest brother, Su Sheng, looked at me with a smirk. It seemed the commotion last night hadn't been small. Many in the family had heard it, and the scene was quite awkward. Fortunately, the eldest sister-in-law hit Su Sheng and laughingly changed the subject. Lao Si looked at me with resentment. I felt awkward toward the eldest brother, but not toward Lao Si. Seeing his resentful expression, I kicked him in the butt. What are you looking at? Go feed Heisey. There, Lao Si was even more resentful, but he dared to be angry but didn't dare to speak, obediently going to feed Heisey. Beating one's younger brother must be done early. It wasn't that I was worried about losing a fight, but I was just used to keeping Lao Si in check. By the time the second sister returned with Huang Sui, her condition had improved significantly. At least she didn't need to be supported while walking. Dad, Mom, Jinxing and I are going back today. There's no room here. The second brother-in-law, Wu Jinsheng, was like his name, not loved by his father or mother. Facing his parents' favoritism and bullying, he felt a sense of powerlessness. Fortunately, his brother-in-law was capable. After I made a scene at his house, the atmosphere at home had changed significantly. When Su Sheng visited, the Wu family didn't dare to go out, because as relatives, they knew the fighting style of the Su family's eldest. He was a ruthless character who didn't hold back in group fights, and was the type who dared to use a big blade against someone's head. The reason they bullied Su Li so much was because she had retreated step by step, not because they were like that from the start. So everyone got used to it and didn't think much of it, until I went to the Wu house and made a scene. Only then did everyone remember that the Su family was not to be trifled with. Not to mention the third son. Even the eldest son was someone they couldn't afford to provoke. Second sister, don't rush. Eat lunch before you leave. The eldest brother and I will take you back so you don't have to run back. I would go to the village chief's house to borrow bicycles, one for each of them, and they would definitely be able to take them back. When they came, the second brother-in-law had run here. I don't know if the Wu family didn't have bicycles or just didn't borrow one, but that didn't matter. Soon it was noon. Everyone ate, and I took over 10 pounds of meat and borrowed the bicycles to take the second sister back. Originally, they were going to take Yaya, but Yaya refused to go back, so they didn't force her. Anyway, she was small, and sleeping with Su Jing was no problem at all. I and Su Sheng, the two brothers, each took one person and sent them back to Wujia village. The two brothers didn't rush back. Instead, we chatted at the Wu house. Su Sheng even deliberately provoked old woman Wu with an arrogant attitude, but the other party didn't dare to clash with Su Sheng, fearing that one day they would be ambushed on a night walk. After the two intimidated them, we waited until 4 or 5 o'clock to head back. We didn't eat dinner there. Don't joke, isn't it better to have a warm bed and a wife at home? Why eat at the Wu house? Do you think the old master of the Wu family cherished them? They were just angry but didn't dare to speak. By the time I and Su Sheng arrived home, it was already dark. Everyone ate together and then went back to their own rooms. Sister-in-law told me a lot today. I think she's very good, just a bit insecure. Her words were full of how they were taking advantage of our family, not only for food and living, but she said you even let her take things back to her maiden home. She said you were kind-hearted and told me not to overthink it. If I'm not happy, she won't take anything back in the future. I and my wife were lying in bed. I was smoking a cigarette after the meal, and Huang Sui was lying in my arms, disheveled. It was clear we had just had a great battle. I've told you about my sister-in-law's family situation, right? How should I put it? I'm not that great. If she weren't my sister-in-law, I wouldn't care if old Manly lived or died. But in order for my sister-in-law to marry my eldest brother with peace of mind, we promised to take care of her and provide for her until the end. Although this was my eldest brother's promise and has nothing to do with me, if old Manly starved to death because my brother couldn't provide the food, what would people think of our family? You have to know that our wedding, including my brother's, was a grand affair. If we say we can't afford the food, how many people do you think would believe it? Outsiders won't care if your food comes from the eldest or third son's labor. If your family has enough to eat while old Manly starves, the village chief will surely come knocking. Though unwritten, this was promised before the village party secretary. The Su family disdains burning bridges. I told my sister-in-law not to worry. Third brother earns the food, and if she uses it to pay debts, it's the eldest brother's responsibility. They're close, so there's no need to be so calculating. Li Xiuqin opened up because she fears my new wife might resent her. While I am generous, a new bride might not be happy about her taking grain and meat home. She wanted to clarify. If Huang Sui minds, she'll stop taking supplies, even if she and Su Sheng have to eat poorly. Surprisingly, Huang Sui didn't mind and told her to rest easy. I am generous because Li Xiuqin is tactful. She always asks Lu Yuji before taking anything, and only takes small amounts, 4 or 5 caddies of meat, just to satisfy her foster father without burdening the Su family. Relationships are comfortable when boundaries are respected. Overstepping, even as a relative, makes one feel like an outsider. Li Xiuqin is also grateful, washing clothes for the entire Su household, including the children, to show her appreciation. I initially thought she was just kind, but realized it stems from insecurity, a fear of being seen as a burden. She's an orphan and feels inferior. It's hard for her to accept her brother-in-law's support. Keep encouraging her. I noted, people like her, who possess a sense of shame and gratitude, are easy to get along with, unlike those who feel entitled and act smugly. Enough about her, I said, pulling my wife close. Morning arrived with the sounds of roosters and waking villagers. I kissed the sleeping Huang Sui, then quietly got up to dress. Since marrying, I rarely slept in. I greeted Li Xiuqin in the kitchen, surprised to see her up so early. Shortly after, a flustered Huang Sui rushed out, glared at me, and hurried into the kitchen. She had intended to cook with her sister-in-law, but overslept because no one woke her. She worried about being compared to Li Xiuqin, who never slept in, fearing her mother-in-law would think her lazy. Don't worry, you're a new bride. It's fine to sleep in. I can handle the kitchen, Li Xiuqin reassured her. I can't do that. We're both new brides. If I sleep in while you work, mother will think I'm lazy. They chatted as Huang Sui threw herself into the cooking. I left them to it and entered the room shared by Su Jin and my younger sister. A young eagle stirred as I entered. I promptly woke up the fourth brother, refusing to let him sleep in. The fourth brother complained, wondering why he couldn't sleep like the others. Are you dissatisfied? I challenged. No, not at all, he replied, grabbing his toothbrush and fleeing. After breakfast, the family dispersed for work, leaving only me, Su Jin, and Yayao at home. Huzi arrived, awkwardly wishing me a happy marriage before asking for my help. I had planned to train the young eagle, but Huzi's arrival interrupted me. Do you know Dongshega? Huzi asked. The village to our west? What about it? A big shot from there. A driver for a wealthy boss returned home. The boss's mother is ill, and a TCM master suggested dole meat for nourishment. To treat deficiency? Exactly. The old lady refuses bitter medicine and feels her time is up, so they're trying food therapy. Dole meat is the main ingredient. Since they can't find it in the city, The driver came back to the mountains to hunt. The boss is offering a 1,000 yuan reward to whoever catches one first, and he's been generous with gifts to anyone spreading the word. I frowned. A state-owned enterprise employee acting like a high-profile boss? 1,000 yuan is a lot. Huzi explained that despite nationalization, these people still have dividends and savings. They can easily afford it. I nodded. Even if they're eventually audited, they likely have hidden assets. Fine, let's go check it out. It was about 25 kilometers away, a 1 to 2 hour bike ride. I told my family, grabbed my gun and a box of bullets, and set off with Huzi. Is your cousin-in-law reliable? I don't want to be chased off for trespassing. Hunting disputes were common, and territoriality was fierce. Don't worry, we have an in with my cousin-in-law, and the boss is the one who issued the invitation. They reached the cousin-in-law's house based on Huzi's memory. Huzi, you actually came. It was Lin Xinshin, Huzi's cousin, who opened the door. Of course, I brought an expert. That 1,000 yuan is ours. Lin Xinshin noticed me. Their families were distant relatives who rarely interacted. Who is this? She asked. She didn't recognize me. My childhood friend and brother, Suyu, Huzi introduced. I offered a polite greeting. Where's your husband? Lin Xinshin, who married at 16, explained how her village had suffered during a drought and famine, leading to their current situation. Lin Xinshin married early due to social pressure. In rural areas, a commune-recognized wedding sufficed, with official registration following later. Changing one's age for paperwork was common, making early marriage a non-issue. He's out recruiting experts to win the prize, Lin said. Are your in-laws home? Huzi asked. Huzi, a relative, felt obligated to greet the elders despite their hunting mission. No, they're in the fields. I'm alone. Alone? Don't you need to work? Or were you waiting for me? Huzi teased. Lin blushed but explained, I'm pregnant, so they won't let me work. I and Huzi exchanged looks, silently labeling the absent husband a beast. Lin was only 18 and already months pregnant. While child brides were a thing of the past, early marriages still occurred, though elders usually cautioned couples to wait until adulthood to consummate. They assumed the husband couldn't wait and took advantage of her months ago. Sensing their judgment, Lin quickly changed the subject and served them brown sugar water, a gesture reserved for honored guests. Soon, Lin's husband arrived with 2 armed men. Lin greeted him, and he turned to Huzi. Huzi, you're here? Is this the expert from your village? Deng Xiaofeng, long time no see, Huzi replied. Deng Xiaofeng and Huzi were former classmates, which made their connection more familiar. Hello, Suyu. I extended my hand in greeting. Deng shook it briefly, clearly unimpressed by my status as an expert. Wife, go boil some water. I need to talk to Huzi. Lin obeyed. In the village, pregnancy didn't exempt women from chores, and rest was a luxury. I and Huzi didn't intervene. It was a common rural reality. Huzi, I didn't expect you to bring someone. The plan has changed, Deng said. Is there a limit on group size? Huzi asked. No, but more people mean less loot to share. We don't know this guy. Huzi frowned, sensing Deng's dissatisfaction. But you said the boss wanted as many people as possible. Huzi worried about me, as I had traveled 25 kilometers to be here. Bound by kinship, Huzi tried to remain polite. The more the better for doles, yes. The boss pays a 1 yuan appearance fee to everyone who shows up. I and Huzi were stunned by the boss's generosity, realizing hunters from 50 miles away would flock here. Militia from nearby villages will come too. We need to keep our group small for efficiency. Deng argued that splitting a small catch among too many people made the effort worthless. He clearly wanted me gone. Since you're with Huzi, I'll help you find another group to join, Deng offered. His companions added, we can't look after an extra person in the mountains. It's too dangerous. Huzi bristled at the sarcasm, but I held him back. No need, I said. We're experienced hunters. We'll form our own group. Deng nodded, accepting their decision. He didn't push, knowing he'd get a 1 yuan referral fee for every person he brought to the boss, which was worth a chicken. I and Huzi remained unaware of the referral fee scheme. At the threshing floor, over 500 people had gathered. The boss was spending a fortune just on appearance fees. The village chief announced, register here. You must have weapons and ammo to qualify. Now, Boss Yang will speak. The crowd applauded as the boss mounted a makeshift platform. Supported by his men, Boss Yang stepped up to speak. I am Yonglin. We are hunting doles. I'll pay triple the market price, and the first to bring one in gets a 1,000 yuan bonus. He handed a stack of cash to the village chief to prove his sincerity. Triple price, 3 yuan per caddy, was an incredible incentive. The boss was prioritizing speed over cost. If you return empty-handed, you still get a 1 yuan appearance fee. I realized the catch. The fee was likely for those who truly caught nothing. If you caught even a pheasant, you probably wouldn't qualify for the empty-handed fee. I also offer a 100 yuan reward for confirmed information on dole locations. You had to lead the team to the doles to claim the reward. The boss was clever. He wouldn't pay for rumors, only for verified results. He ensured that anyone claiming a reward had to prove it by successfully hunting the pack. 500 hunters gathered to review posters detailing 8 dole sighting locations. Hunters were required to register their chosen destination and team, with all leaders and informants recorded. To maximize efficiency, the organizers moved from voluntary selection to unified deployment, ensuring even distribution across all sites to prevent overcrowding or understaffing. Deng Xiaofeng approached, suggesting I and Huzi join his cousin's 2-man team to form a group of 4. Recognizing Huzi wasn't the decision-maker, Deng Xiaofeng directed his proposal straight to me. I declined, stating we preferred to work alone. Deng's companions, skilled hunters in their 30s, were annoyed by my dismissive attitude, viewing the young duo as inexperienced. They looked down on me, though Deng Xiaofeng had his own hidden motives for involving us. One of the men mocked me and Huzi for lacking hunting dogs and being too few, urging us to accept Deng's kind offer. Sensing the mockery, I restrained the impulsive Huzi with a firm hand on his shoulder. I politely declined, claiming we were only there for the experience. Deng Xiaofeng then led us to register. Deng had only suggested the team up to collect a 1 yuan referral fee per person. He hadn't expected Huzi to bring a second person. Fearing a smaller cut of the profits, he tried to push me out to force Huzi to quit. Since they were distant relatives, Deng used me as a scapegoat to avoid direct conflict with Huzi. I and Huzi were unaware that Deng was profiting from our registration. Deng pocketed 2 yuan, a significant sum equivalent to 2 days' wages for a skilled laborer, after registering us. This was a substantial amount, as hunting success was never guaranteed. Huzi asked me which location we should choose. Informants stood by their posters, campaigning for their sites. The first to lead a team to a successful kill would claim a 100 yuan bonus. Providing information was safer than hunting alone, as it offered a chance at both the kill and the informant fee. I noted that while the tips were likely genuine, doles were mobile, making the success probability roughly equal everywhere. Huzi suggested Wulatin, noting its accessible terrain allowed for bicycles, which could help us rush back to register a kill first. Huzi chose Wulatin because of a quiet, elderly hunter who had reported sightings there, unlike the boastful informants elsewhere. I agreed to Wulatin. The 500 hunters split into 8 groups of 60. With such density, the appearance fee Boss Yang promised would likely go unclaimed. I and Huzi prepared to bike to the site. An older man asked where we were from. The other hunters, mostly in their 30s and 40s, eyed the young men and their bicycles. I replied we were from Sanshuiwan. The man questioned the safety of leaving bikes at the mountain base. Huzi explained that old man Xiao, the Wulatin informant, had agreed to store them at his home. Since the old man lived near the site, it was a perfect arrangement. The group realized the duo's plan to use the bikes to secure the first-place prize. Huzi laughed, admitting that everyone wanted the top spot. The crowd laughed along, all driven by the boss's high incentives. While Deng's group chose local sites they knew well, I and Huzi stuck with Wulatin. Since doles roam near villages to steal poultry, the specific location mattered less than the animals' unpredictable movements. Some hunters complained that the Deng family village locals had selfishly claimed the best nearby spots for themselves. The locals were essentially using the hunt as a general outing, ensuring they'd have a successful harvest regardless of the doles. The deployment felt unfair to the outsiders sent to distant areas. Boss Yang didn't care, as long as the doles were killed, and he allowed his local driver's village to benefit. I and Huzi offered to bike old man Xiao back to his village first. The old man agreed and rode with Huzi, while the others continued on foot. Upon arriving at Wulatin, They found the old man smoking and Huzi tending to 3 hunting dogs. The old man took the leashes as the rest of the group arrived. Old man Xiao warned the outsiders to pair with locals to avoid getting lost in the dangerous, unfamiliar terrain. He noted the presence of wild boars and ferocious beasts, warning that mistakes could be fatal for those without my skill. The old man had his own nephews to rely on, so his advice was purely altruistic. As teams reorganized, I and Huzi were left isolated due to our youth and lack of dogs. Only 3 remained. I, Huzi, and a ragged 15-year-old boy carrying a homemade shotgun. The boy was entirely alone. Old man Xiao asked if the boy was truly by himself. The boy confirmed. Despite his appearance, the boy had a look of fierce, stubborn determination. The old man urged the others to take the boy in. The crowd hesitated, fearing the liability of a child, but Huzi looked to me for a signal. I nodded, and Huzi invited the boy to join us. Huzi acted on my silent approval. The boy identified himself as Taidan. The old man was relieved, having been prepared to take the boy himself. The old man confirmed the arrangement. Taidan nodded, indifferent to the danger, as he had been prepared to enter the mountains alone. The hunt began. The large group splintered into smaller, independent teams. Huzi introduced himself and me, then asked Taidan about his family. Huzi was curious about Taidan, who seemed far too young to be in the mountains. At 15, Huzi had been strictly forbidden from even wandering near the foothills. My father is dead, my mother ran off. It's just me, my sister, and my grandmother now. I and Huzi were at a loss for words. The boy was already the family's sole provider, forced into labor long before the harvest season. Can you shoot? I glanced at Tiedan's old shotgun, worried the boy might injure himself with the temperamental weapon. I've used it since I was 13. Don't worry, I won't hold you back. I was struck by the boy's heartbreaking maturity and fell silent. Are you a local, Taidan? I noticed the boy's lack of nervousness. He clearly wasn't a first-timer in the mountains. No, I'm from Wangjiazhai. I and Huzi exchanged glances. Honglin Town's Wangjiazhai. Taidan nodded. Since Wangjiazhai was 20 kilometers away, the boy must have started his journey before dawn to reach Deng family village by morning. Wangjiazhai is only 5 kilometers from our Sanshuiwan. We're neighbors. Ever heard of it? Hunters often traveled long distances, so most nearby villages were familiar to one another. Oh, you're from Sanshuiwan? That's close. I've been to your town market before. It was common for neighboring villages to interact. Enough talk. Our target is the Dole. Old man Xiao and his nephew headed southwest, and most of the crowd is trailing them. Since Xiao provided the intel, the others were tailing him to find the Dole. Are we following them, brother you? No. We're going to the spot where Xiao first spotted the Dole. I led the way. Huzi agreed, and Taidan, happy to be included by the older boys, followed without question. Brother Huzi, why are we going back? There's no Dole left there. Taidan was genuinely confused. Just watch. Brother Yu's nose is like a police dog's. He's tracking the scent. I had insisted on the police dog comparison to avoid the heavenly dog label, which I found ridiculous. Huzi knew I exaggerated, but he played along to maintain their edge. Stop whispering behind my back and get over here. I had heard every word. We weren't saying anything bad. I ignored them, sniffing the air. Tracking a Dole from days-old residue was nearly impossible, even for a master. I wasn't trying to track the path. I was trying to memorize the scent. I soon found a stray hair on the ground. Is that from the Dole, brother you? Huzi realized what I was doing. Likely. I sniffed the hair, locking the scent into my memory. I had to verify scents one by one to build my internal database. I had already memorized the distinct smells of pheasants, rabbits, roe deer, boars, badgers, wolves, and tigers. This was my first time encountering a Dole, and I needed a reference point to identify it later. They went southwest. We're heading due south. Huzi and Taidan followed me without hesitation. I used my 6 senses to scan the forest. I didn't find the Dole, but they bagged several rabbits. Taidan offered to carry the game, and I agreed. I led, with Huzi and Taidan trailing. Brother Huzi, what is he doing? We're just wandering aimlessly. The boys were breathless trying to keep up. Huzi took half the rabbits to help Taidan. Just follow him. Brother you knows what he's doing. Huzi remained calm. Suddenly, I stopped and began deep breathing. No Dole, but there's a wolf pack. Climb a tree and wait. I'm going to take care of them. Tiden dropped the rabbits and gripped his shotgun. Brother you, can you handle them alone? Let us cover you. I was surprised by Tiedan's lack of fear. The boy was braver than Huzi had been at the start. Tiedan's willingness to help was rare. No, stay in the tree. You'd just be in the way. I walked off with my rifle. Come on, up the tree. Don't worry about brother you. He's fine with wolves. Tiden thought Huzi was crazy to be so relaxed. They climbed a tree and waited. Soon, a rapid series of 10 gunshots rang out in quick succession. I returned shortly after. Let's go collect the loot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 wolves. How did he do that? I told you. Follow brother you, and you'll eat well. Start cleaning them. The 10 wolves weighed over 300 gene in total. Brother you, it's a waste to leave them, but how do we carry them? Easy. Huzi, get the rope. We'll hide them and come back for them later. Huzi retrieved nylon rope. I divided the wolves into 300-pound bundles, tied them, and hoisted them into high, dense trees, using branches for camouflage. Bring the rabbits, store them together. Huzi tossed up the 4 rabbits. I caught them and secured them to the branches. Brother you, is this safe? What if they go missing? They won't. The trees are too high for most, and only leopards could reach them. People rarely look up. Tigers can't climb that high. While humans could, they are unlikely to spot the hidden cache. Don't worry. We can't hunt the dhole while weighed down by all this gear. Let's go. I opted not to use my space, as leaving only 1 wolf would look suspicious given my marksmanship. Keeping half was pointless, so I left them all. Right, let's go, Tiden. Follow brother you. Tiden was thrilled. Even without firing a shot, he expected a share of the wolves to feed his grandmother and sister. He knew he couldn't handle a wolf pack alone with his old shotgun. My decisive headshots had prevented a counterattack. My precision had intimidated the pack, preventing a dangerous retaliation. I suddenly stopped. Huzi realized I'd found a trail and hurried over. Found something? Yes, faint traces of a dhole. It's older than the scent old man Xiao found, meaning they passed through days ago. Should we push forward or turn back? I didn't answer, methodically tracking the scent in all directions. East. As they changed course, Tiden marked the trees with his knife. Huzi asked why. I'm marking the path so we don't lose our hidden haul, Tiden explained. I overheard and patted Tiden on the shoulder, praising his foresight. Tiden assumed I just had a keen nose, unaware of my true, extraordinary tracking abilities. Look at him, Huzi. Learn something. I headed east. Tiden felt awkward, but Huzi reassured him it was just friendly banter. Huzi, a childhood friend, didn't mind the jab, but he clarified things for Tiedan's sake. I'm fine, brother Huzi. They followed me, and I zigzagged to maintain the intermittent scent trail, expanding my search radius when necessary. Along the way, I bagged a roe deer and 2 pheasants. Brother you, we've gone 5 kilometers. Should we keep going? They were now quite far from Woolaton. Don't worry, we're close. Rest here, I'll go ahead alone. Huzi and Tiden sat down, gasping for air. I vanished into the forest. Hungry, Tiden? Let's roast the pheasants. Tiden hesitated but gathered firewood, while Huzi prepared the seasonings. Should we eat brother you's pheasant without asking? Don't worry, he's not stingy. We'll leave him a whole one. He'll be glad to have it ready. Tiden complied without further argument. Meanwhile, I moved like an ape, the scent trail sharpening until it was fresh. I smirked. Finally found you after 10 miles of trekking. Within half an hour, a gunshot shattered the silence. I emerged from the trees, smiling as I approached my kill. I picked up the 30-pound dhole, a creature resembling a fox or wolf. Time to go. I sprinted back with astonishing speed. Before I even arrived, I smelled the roasted chicken. I found Huzi and Tiden feasting, and though they'd saved me a portion, I was annoyed by their gluttony. You're back. Wipe that grease off your face before you get near me. Huzi quickly offered me an untouched roasted pheasant. Let's move. Eat on the way. Seeing the dhole, Huzi and Tiden were ecstatic. Hunting such a cunning, fast creature was nearly impossible without my skills. Dholes were rare and elusive, unlike common small game. I ate while they trekked back. Upon reaching the cache, I leaped into the trees, nimbly retrieving the bundles of wolves and rabbits. Brother you, can we carry all this? Tiden worried about the 400-pound load. Don't worry, Your brother you has natural strength. Huzi was skeptical, but having no other explanation for my sudden growth, he accepted it. Taidan, take the small game and the dole. Huzi, carry 100 pounds of wolves. I'll take the rest. I refused to be a pack mule. Everyone had to contribute to the haul. Understood. Huzi hoisted the 100-pound wolf bundle, and Taidan took the lighter load. I effortlessly carried the remaining 200 pounds, leaving Taidan stunned. 10 minutes later, they reached the outskirts of the village. Huzi, get the bicycle. I'll take the dole to register it. You two guard the rest. Huzi returned quickly with the bike. I strapped the dole to the seat and sped off. As I vanished at high speed, Taidan asked, Huzi, what do we do? What about the prey? I have no idea. Let's just wait. The two sat down and played a board game to pass the time. Meanwhile, I covered the tens of miles in just over 10 minutes. Fearing I might miss the reward, I arrived at Deng Family Village and immediately asked for the village party secretary to register my kill. I headed straight for the office, but was blocked at the entrance. The secretary is busy. Wait a moment, they said. I asked if I was the first to register. The men glanced at the dole on my bike with envy, but evasively told me to ask the secretary later. One man slipped away toward the village entrance while the others blocked my path. What's the meaning of this? Trying to steal my prey? Don't talk nonsense. The village head is busy, you can't go in. I realized they were stalling to let their own villagers register first and claim the reward. The man sent to the entrance was likely waiting for a Deng villager to return so they could sneak them in through the back. The village office was a large, imposing courtyard, making it easy for them to block me and ignore any commotion outside. I wasn't a novice. I parked my bike and charged toward the entrance with the dole. A dozen men surrounded me, confident in their numbers. I opened my system, age 19, physique 18, strength 27, speed 20, stamina 22, space 3 cubic meters. Skills, fishing 4-3, archery limit break 4-1, tracking 4-7, dog training 4-1, combat fighting 4-4, butchery 4-7, climbing 4-7, marksmanship 4-8, carpentry 4-5, parkour 4-7. Skill points, 48. System, dump all points into combat fighting. Tired of being bullied as an outsider, I decided to force my way in. My stats surged. Physique 20, strength 30, speed 23, stamina 25. Skills updated. Krav Maga 4-8. Skill points, 0. Upon reaching level 7, I had chosen Krav Maga as my specialization. Krav Maga is a world-renowned, lethal combat system used by the Israeli military and FBI. The system's version included secret, deadly techniques. It is widely recognized as one of the most effective modern combat systems. Move, I commanded. My body had transformed. My flexibility, speed, and stamina had all increased to accommodate the demanding requirements of Krav Maga. Kid, stay put, or we'll give you a taste of trouble. Though specialized in Krav Maga, I retained my broad knowledge of other styles like Muay Thai and Sanda, though I knew that to break my limits, I had to focus. If you won't move, don't blame me. I secured the dole to my back and lunged forward with a high kick. A 2-meter-tall man was struck in the head and collapsed instantly. The others immediately turned hostile. Teach this outsider a lesson. I avoided using lethal Krav Maga strikes, as I only wanted to secure my reward, not kill anyone. I relied on my level 7 Sanda and Taekwondo skills, which were more than enough to handle the crowd. Level 7 was equivalent to a provincial champion level. Men were sent flying one after another. I utilized capoeira, which was both elegant and devastatingly powerful. Get the weapons. The villagers, raised in a culture where fighting was common and encouraged by veteran parents, grabbed long wooden sticks. This culture of bloodiness meant that fighting was a daily occurrence in the village. Deng Family Village was no exception to this rugged, militant spirit. Over 20 men charged at me with sticks. Attack! The villagers swarmed me. My temper flared. I had tried to hold back, but their arrogance left me no choice. I used Tai Chi to deflect a strike, followed by Wing Chun to knock a man back. I then snapped a wooden stick in half and used the pieces to fight my way through. I blocked with one hand, struck with the other, and used capoeira kicks to clear the area. Despite my strength, I remained rational and avoided lethal force. I took a few hits, but my high physique kept me standing. As only a few men remained, I spotted one running into a room to grab a Mauser rifle. The rifle was a reliable, classic weapon with a 5-round capacity and a range of 1,000 meters. Using a gun for a fistfight? Enraged, I executed a triple kick maneuver from Jeet Kune Do. I sent the guards flying and rushed toward the gunman. I knocked 2 more men aside with powerful elbow strikes. As the gunman raised the rifle, I threw a broken stick at him. The stick struck the man's forehead. The gunman flinched, and I reached him, kicking the rifle barrel upward just as it fired. The bullet grazed my forehead, and I retaliated with a 360-degree spinning kick to the man's chest. The impact was deafening. The gunman was sent flying into the room. I grabbed the rifle, chambered a round, and aimed it at the last remaining villager. 35 men were down. The final villager stood trembling, terrified by my ability to disarm a shooter. The kick had broken at least 3 of the gunman's ribs, sending him crashing through the door. The man lay unconscious, and the last villager pleaded, "Calm down, brother. Don't be impulsive." Anyone would be terrified to have a gun pointed at their head, not to mention that the attacker's combat skills alone were enough to crush them all. I had left my rifle and bicycle outside. Otherwise, I wouldn't have needed to seize the opponent's weapon, denying them the chance to fire. You want me to stop just because you said so? Now you want to talk? It's too late. I kicked the man in the chest, sending him sliding 3 meters away, where he collapsed, clutching his ribs. The kick was powerful but not lethal. Everyone except the gunman suffered only minor injuries that would heal within a day. Stop! Stop! The village committee doors opened, and the old village chief, Boss Yang, his bodyguard, and his driver emerged. "Didn't you hear me tell you to stop?" The Deng family village chief demanded, having tried to stall for time until the gunshot forced him to intervene to prevent a catastrophe. He couldn't afford a death on his hands, and neither could Boss Yang. They were stunned to see over 30 people on the ground and the young man still standing, having just sent another flying with a kick. "I heard you, but you were too late." I didn't back down. I knew this couldn't end peacefully, but I insisted on maintaining the moral high ground. Which village are you from? Why are you hitting people?" I retorted, my temper flaring. "I hunted a dhole and came to register it. Your villagers blocked me with dirty tricks. Are you afraid I'll outshine Deng family village? Look for yourselves. 36 people ganged up on me, and when they couldn't win, they pulled a gun. If I weren't skilled, I'd be dead. You're the village chief, right? Give me an explanation, or this isn't over." Even Boss Yang's 4 bodyguards were shocked, instinctively shielding their employer after realizing one man had defeated the entire group. Several villagers stood up, bruised but mostly fine. They had seen Deng Xiaofeng, the gunman, kicked into the room. The first thing they did was rush into the room, returning shortly in a panic. The village chief arrived just as the news broke. "Old party secretary, Xiaofeng is unconscious, his chest is caved in, his ribs are likely broken, but he's still alive." The chief panicked, fearing the legal consequences of a death. After all, the ambush had occurred with his tacit approval. He pushed through the crowd into the room, followed by a roar of anger. "Someone hurry! Get the ox cart, take Deng Xiaofeng to the county hospital." He hadn't expected to encounter a reckless, highly skilled monster like me, who refused to endure the village's schemes. Ignoring the old party secretary, I turned to Boss Yang. "Boss Yang, I brought the dhole. I should be the first. Where's my reward?" I knew Boss Yang was likely complicit, favoring the local village where his driver originated. I despised the hypocrisy of holding a competition only to rig it, forcing hunters to risk their lives for nothing. Boss Yang was stunned. The boy was demanding money instead of fearing for the life of the man he'd just injured. "What? You brat? You hurt our people and still want a reward? Are you insane?" It was the driver, a man from Deng family village, who spoke up. "What? You set the rules, I followed them. Are you planning to welch on the deal?" Boss Yang stayed silent, curious to see how I would handle this. "Damn you, you're finished. If Xiaofeng dies, you'll pay with your life." The driver had orchestrated the ambush with the chief's silent consent, hoping to keep the 1,000 yuan prize within the village. "Boss Yang, is this your stance? Or does a hired hand make the decisions now?" I remained calm, staring directly at Boss Yang. The old party secretary emerged as others carried the unconscious Deng Xiaofeng toward the waiting ox cart. "Akue, stop talking. Take our car and drive him. The ox cart is too slow. Boss Yang finally spoke, handing his driver, Akue, 50 yuan. Akue glared at me, took the money, and went to fetch the jeep. Only people of status rode in such vehicles, usually high-ranking officials from major state-owned factories. Kid, Akue is right. If Xiaofeng doesn't make it, forget the reward. I'll see you in prison. The village party secretary threatened, but I was unimpressed. I wasn't a local under the chief's thumb. An explanation? I didn't kill him out of mercy. He pulled a gun on me. He deserved what he got. While self-defense laws were complex, no one could blame me for retaliating against an attempted murder. You can't decide that yourself. I haven't investigated whether Xiaofeng really intended to shoot you, the secretary argued. That's for later. Where's my reward? I held out the dole, demanding my payment. Boss Yang was baffled by my audacity. What? Are you going back on your word? My sharp gaze forced Boss Yang's bodyguards to step forward, shielding their boss. Even the old party secretary retreated, and the villagers, fearing another beating, backed away. As a bodyguard reached for his pistol, I moved faster, pressing my own rifle against the man's head. Take your hand away, or I'll blow your brains out. The tension spiked. The old party secretary realized I was a desperate, dangerous man. Terrified, he fell silent. Young man, it's a misunderstanding. Dexiong, take your hand away, don't move. Boss Yang, fearing for his own life, realized this boy was a ruthless killer. Ayong, get the money. Dexiong, feeling the cold barrel of the Mauser Nagant, slowly withdrew his hand. I snatched the pistol from Dexiong's waist, keeping the rifle leveled at his head. Young man, I've sent for the money. Can you put the gun away now? I glared at Boss Yang. Don't play these rigged games again. If you can't afford to lose, don't toy with us. Hunters risk their lives for you. Is this how you repay them? Boss Yang realized his error. He had viewed the payment as a simple transaction, indifferent to who actually secured the dole, but my words made him see the injustice of his apathy. 500 people were risking their lives in the forest, yet he had ignored the fairness of the hunt, effectively disregarding their safety. Boss, 1,000 yuan. Someone handed over the money. Boss Yang quickly passed it to me, offering repeated apologies. I pocketed the cash, my weapon still in hand. The village party secretary watched with envy but remained silent, intimidated by my earlier display of dominance when I had threatened the bodyguard. My killing intent was palpable, forged from years of hunting. Like a butcher who unnerves dogs, my aura was an undeniable, chilling reality. Money received. Now let's address the guy I knocked out. I grabbed one of the 30 men who had just stood up and dragged him before the village party secretary. Village party secretary of Deng Family Village, you wanted the truth? Let him tell you. I warned the man. Tell the truth. One lie, and you'll see what happens when a man is pushed to the edge. Though no longer pointing my gun, my sheer ferocity compelled the man to confess everything without omission. Is he telling the truth? Don't test my patience. I turned to the remaining 30 men. Faced with my pistol, they realized that lying wouldn't just cost them the money, it might cost them their lives. Under my piercing gaze, they all lowered their heads and confirmed the man's account. Secretary, you heard them. Your village broke the rules and drew weapons first. What do you have to say? The secretary cursed the men for their cowardice, yet he knew he couldn't escalate this further without risking bloodshed. Ahem. It was my village that broke the rules. These men acted behind my back. I apologize for my lack of discipline. The secretary noted my unwavering calm. I had never shown a hint of fear, not even when threatened with prison. He realized that if he called the militia, I would likely destroy the money and cause a scene that would be impossible to contain. Since you admit fault, how will you compensate me for the risks we took? The secretary was stunned. You already have the reward. Isn't that enough? I countered. I survived on my own merit. Deng Xiaofeng attempted murder. If I report this to public security, he goes to jail, and you, as secretary, will be investigated for your ignorance and complicity. A scandal would ruin the secretary's career, as he would be deemed unfit for leadership. The secretary broke into a cold sweat, realizing his comfortable position was at stake. He knew he couldn't rely on these 30 men to protect him forever, and the potential for blackmail was too high. Private settlement was the only way. Boss Yang, a shrewd businessman, reached the same conclusion. Boss Yang realized I had successfully cornered the secretary, winning the psychological battle. What compensation do you want? I considered my options. The village couldn't afford more cash, and I didn't need their rifles. You had a good haul. Give me 500 caddies of game. That's fair, right? I didn't specify the type of meat, just the weight. The secretary gritted his teeth and agreed, confident he could squeeze the hunters to fulfill the quota. I turned to Boss Yang. And you, Boss Yang? You surely knew something. What's your explanation? Boss Yang was surprised to be threatened by a youth, but he dared not underestimate me. I didn't know for sure, but I had my suspicions given the commotion. Boss Yang admitted he had guessed the village's intent, but had chosen to stay out of it. I'll take your word for it. But your bodyguard tried to draw a gun on me. How do you explain that? Boss Yang had no defense for his bodyguard's actions. Bystanding was a form of complicity, especially when his man had threatened lethal force. What do you want? Speak plainly. Boss Yang suspected I was after his pistol. I smiled. You were almost an accomplice. I'll give you a chance to make amends. Since the secretary owes me 500 caddies of meat, I'll entrust you to process it for me. The secretary and Boss Yang were taken aback by the audacity of the request. Boss Yang realized I wanted him to convert the promised meat into cash immediately. It was a bold move, demanding payment for goods that hadn't even been handed over yet. Boss, this kid is too arrogant. Let us take him down, the bodyguards urged. The 4 bodyguards, all veterans, were eager to fight. Boss Yang felt the pressure, acknowledging that his own negligence had led to this situation. He accepted that he was reaping what he had sown by ignoring the village's schemes. Fine, I'll pay you 80 cents per caddy. I agreed. Boss Yang handed over 400 yuan. I cleared my pistol, tossed it back, and told the secretary, give the 500 caddies to Boss Yang. Goodbye. I left the courtyard, returned the other rifle, and rode off on my bicycle. Boss, let us chase him and get the money back. The bodyguards were itching for a fight now that the threat of the gun was gone. They were confident they could take me with their own weapons. Forget it. It's only 400 yuan. Consider it the cost of the dole. Besides, it wasn't entirely his fault. The secretary approached, realizing I had used the meat as a pretext to force Boss Yang to pay up. Boss Yang, about that 500 caddies of game, do you still want it? Boss Yang suppressed his urge to blame the village party secretary for the greed that caused this mess, realizing that lashing out would be counterproductive. He abandoned the idea of demanding 500 caddies of game. His jeep couldn't carry it, and he wasn't about to play the role of a meat peddler. A successful businessman like him knew better than to act on impulse. Forget the meat, he said. Just have the village party secretary send me a few rare pieces to take home for a taste. The village party secretary was relieved and immediately agreed, confident he could easily source a few dozen caddies of high-quality game to satisfy the boss. Boss Yang considered replacing his driver, but decided against an immediate confrontation. He didn't want to humiliate his driver in front of the villagers, as replacing close staff was a long-term process, not a snap decision. The driver returned, and both the boss and the village party secretary rushed over, anxious to know if the victim survived. How is he? Did he make it? The driver nodded. Deng Xiaofeng is stable. 3 broken ribs, but his lungs are intact. He'll live. By the way, where is that kid? Relieved that no one had died, the boss and the village party secretary felt the situation was manageable with some financial compensation. He left. Don't worry about him, the village party secretary said. The driver, frustrated by the lack of action, turned to the bodyguards for an explanation. Upon hearing what happened, the driver was furious, but with his boss and the village party secretary choosing to drop the matter, his hands were tied. Get the registry, the driver demanded. I want to know his name. He was determined to keep track of the man who had disrupted his plans. One of the 30 men retrieved the registry from the office. The accountant, Uncle Dama, says Deng Zifeng handled the registration, the man reported. With the description of the man's clothing and rifle, it was easy for the accountant to identify him. Go to Deng Zifeng's place and ask who that was. The records were ambiguous, and since the rifles were identical, they needed clarification. A man returned shortly. The guy is called Su Yu, from Sanshuiwan Village in Yulan Town. The other one is Su Xiaohu, the cousin of Deng Zifeng's wife, who brought them along. Su Yu? I'll remember that, the driver muttered. Meanwhile, I was already biking home. Huzi and Taidan were waiting anxiously, worried about guarding the massive pile of game alone. I arrived and immediately handed them 300 yuan each. Here, your shares. Though Huzi didn't mind the split, they both wanted to help the impoverished Taidan, so they insisted on this fair distribution. Taidan was overwhelmed. Yuji, I didn't do much. Is this really okay? You helped mark the trail and carry the game, I insisted. Huzi took his share without complaint, so you should too. Seeing Huzi pocket the money, Taidan thanked them profusely, feeling he had finally met his benefactors. What about old man Xiao and the others? I asked. Not back yet. What do we do with all this meat? With nearly 400 caddies of game, they couldn't transport it all by bike. Don't worry, I said. I've arranged for someone to collect it. Huzi, take Taidan home first, then come back for me. I gave Taidan a wolf, a pheasant, and a rabbit. This is your share. Sell it or eat it. It's your choice. It was less than a strict mathematical split, but it was generous given Taidan hadn't fired a shot. Taidan was already grateful for the 300 yuan and didn't want to accept more. Take it for your sister, I insisted. Come visit us in Sanshuiwan when you can, and we'll go hunting again. After Huzi and Taidan left, I used my space ability to vanish the remaining 9 wolves and the rest of the game. I walked a few miles until Huzi returned to pick me up. I handed Huzi another 60 yuan. Here is your share from the sale. Wolf meat was cheap, and the total haul fetched about 160 yuan, plus a bit more for the birds and rabbits. Since I did the heavy lifting, I kept the majority, but 60 yuan was a fair bonus for Huzi. Thanks, Huzi said, pocketing the cash. But I'm paying you back the 500 yuan for the rifle now. You have to take it. Having earned nearly 600 yuan total, Huzi was finally able to clear his debt, and he insisted I accept the payment. Back in the village, Huzi handed over the 500 yuan. I accepted it, bringing my total daily income to 1,240 yuan. The hunting code, that partners must share the spoils, existed because hunting ferocious beasts alone was a death sentence. Without a shared incentive, no one would risk their life to help another. Furthermore, it prevented greed from turning partners into enemies. In the wilderness, a hunting accident could easily hide a murder. Adhering to the code was a moral constraint that kept hunters from killing each other. Hunters always kept a spare bullet or arrow, not just for beasts, but as a precaution against their own partners. The code was the only thing preventing total chaos. Well, I thought, my pockets are full again. I counted my savings. Over 5,300 yuan. I kept 300 out and tucked the rest into my space. Huang Sui entered, asking why Huzi had left so abruptly. I dismissed it as a minor matter. I handed her the 300 yuan, telling her to use it for household expenses. Though they had only been married a few days, I felt it was only right to contribute. My eldest brother paid in grain, but I wanted to ensure my own share was covered. Why are you giving me so much? She asked. Huang Sui was stunned. She was a hunter's daughter and knew money, but she hadn't expected to be handed the household finances so soon after marriage. I explained that after buying her a watch, a sewing machine, and other necessities, this was what remained of my 5,300 yuan total. You're my wife. You need money to manage the house, including school fees for my younger siblings and Yaya's needs. You're a very responsible third brother, she remarked. She was confused why I felt obligated to support Lao Si, who was nearly my age, but she kept her questions to herself. I understood her confusion. It stemmed from my father's inability to provide for the family. I could move out once my house was finished, but I didn't want to create future enemies by letting my siblings suffer now. If I ignored them while thriving, my siblings would inevitably resent me, regardless of their feelings toward their father. By providing for their education and clothes, and letting my wife handle the distribution, I could foster family harmony without causing unnecessary conflict. Huang Sui felt that if anyone should be helping, it was the eldest brother, Shengguer, or their father. I agreed in principle, but I refused to let my siblings suffer just to prove a point to my father. Sit down, let me explain. I needed her to understand, or she might treat my siblings poorly, wasting my investment. I laid out the history of my father and grandparents. Lao Si is 14. He knows who treats him well. I'll support him until he finishes school and marries. Then he's on his own. As for my younger sister, I'll support her until she marries. I won't change my father, but I won't abandon them. Huang Sui finally understood. I argued that ignoring one's starving siblings while living in luxury was a sign of a cold heart. I didn't want to be the type of person who cuts ties with poor relatives just to protect my own wealth. One cannot choose their origin, but they can choose how to use their resources. Cutting ties guarantees resentment. Helping offers a chance for gratitude and family unity. I wouldn't overindulge them, but providing for school and clothes was a reasonable boundary. I want you to handle the money so they feel your kindness. It doubles the impact of my support. It builds your reputation and makes them respect you. It's a smart investment. Huang Sui laughed, realizing I was trying to comfort her, but she accepted my logic of doing what one can. I wasn't looking for a return on investment, but I knew that family bonds require effort. If I, as a capable brother, ignored them, I couldn't expect them to treat me like family later. Fine, stop trying to soothe me. I don't mind helping. Let's go eat. I agreed and headed to my father's room. Big brother Su Shang, sister-in-law Li Xiuqin, Su Yu, his wife Huang Su, fourth brother Su Jin, little sister Su Jing, and niece Yaya were all there. Father came over and sat down, and Lu Yuji brought egg drop soup from the kitchen for Yaya and little sister. Third brother, did you and Huzi have any luck hunting? His mother asked. She was curious, as I rarely returned empty-handed. Everyone turned to look at me. We went to another village to help a boss hunt doles. We sold the catch there, so I didn't bring anything back. They understood. I then asked about the rumors regarding the eldest aunt's niece. I was intrigued. Huang Sui was curious too. I whispered the context to her, and Shengguer began to share what he'd learned from Uncle Zheng. Uncle Zheng was the foreman building my house. The educated youth who got her pregnant came back and married her, but he's trying to get transferred back to his original unit. Once married locally, an educated youth's household registration is moved, making it nearly impossible to leave. Getting a transfer requires complex reports and justifications. He actually came back to marry her? Did he change his ways? I wondered. In my previous life, the man had never shown his face, leaving the woman to find a scapegoat, husband. I still considered him a scoundrel. If he weren't, he would have at least written to her after ruining her reputation. I was heartless. I didn't need the public security to track my former unit. If my aunt's niece had simply written to me about her pregnancy, I would have known. Because the situation was shameful and she feared involving the authorities, she lost contact with me and had to find a scapegoat. My rebirth changed things. I returned, but I'm competing for a promotion. If I deny the pregnancy, the factory might blacklist me for my poor character. Why would a woman frame me otherwise? If I admit it and marry her, I might still secure a transfer back to my unit. If I deny it and create a scandal, my career is finished. No unit wants a man with a tarnished reputation. The crowd realized that even if I wanted to return, marriage makes a transfer difficult. I must have connections, but the cost of this bet will be high. I won't treat my new wife well. Even if she gets her wish to return to the city, it won't be a happy marriage. It's a desperate, loveless pursuit of status. It's pathetic to sacrifice one's dignity just for a city job and grain rations. After dinner, I began training my young eagles, a task I'd long delayed. Third brother, are you letting them go? The eagles were tethered to a perch by their legs. No, I'm training them. I lacked experience. Since I raised them from chicks, they weren't hostile, just confused by my commands. I tried tethering them to a short rope, letting them fly, then whistling for them to return. They just flapped around clumsily, unaccustomed to flight. The system didn't trigger any skills, confirming my method was wrong. I decided I needed to visit the city library to study falconry. The next morning, I was woken by a commotion at the gate. Big brother, what's happening? A middle-aged woman stood outside, looking distraught. Su Sheng was blocking her. I asked, who are you? She replied, I'm from Deng Family Village, looking for Su Yu. I recalled my confrontation in Deng Family Village. I had acted on impulse. If the village had mobilized the militia, I would have been in serious trouble. I'm Su Yu. What do you want? The woman knelt and burst into tears. I felt awkward. She was old enough to be my mother. Get up. Big brother, let her in and close the gate. They moved to the north room. Speak, I said. I guessed. Are you Deng Xiaofeng's mother? I had broken 3 of Xiaofeng's ribs during the fight. Yes. I'm here to apologize. I failed to raise him well. I cut her off to avoid worrying my family. You're here for money, aren't you? You can't afford the hospital bills. She nodded, weeping, and tried to kneel again. I sat her down. I was annoyed. The mother seemed decent, but her son was a reckless fool who had used a gun. I didn't want to be a saint, but her desperation made it hard to refuse. You know the truth, right? Your son was a pawn. Why come to me instead of the person who instigated him? The surgery costs $500. The instigator paid $280, and the village head scraped together $75. I'm still short $45. The village had contributed what they could, but it wasn't enough. Can't you borrow the rest from the villagers? I'm a widow. No one will lend to me. I realized that if the boy died, the mother would lose everything. I grew suspicious. How did she find my address? And why was she being vague about the instigator? My expression hardened. I didn't want blood on my hands, but I refused to be manipulated. The money wasn't the issue, the principle was. I didn't want to be involved in a death, but I wouldn't be a puppet. How did you find my address? And who told your son to block my gate? She hesitated, and I stood up to leave. If you won't answer, leave. If you tell the truth, I'll pay the $45. She finally spoke. It was Boss Yang's driver. He paid the bulk of the initial costs, but the surgery is too expensive. He told me to come here. I tried to borrow money in the village, but no one would give me a cent. I realized the village had been told not to help her, forcing her to come to me to annoy me. They were betting I'd be too proud to refuse, hoping to drag me into the mess. They wanted to force my hand. I sighed and handed her 50 yuan. Take it. The extra 5 is for his recovery. I paid to avoid the trouble they were trying to manufacture, refusing to let them dictate my fate. Third brother, what's going on? Why give her money? Are you in trouble? Eldest brother Su Sheng asked sternly. Having married late due to his own wild youth, he feared I might repeat his mistakes. Don't worry, big brother. It's nothing major. My plan to head to town was delayed until breakfast, when the family finally discussed my wife's formal return visit to her parents. I realized it was time to take Huang Sui home. Su Sheng didn't mention the morning's incident, much to my relief. Mother Su insisted I take gifts, tobacco, alcohol, meat, pastries, and canned peaches for my father-in-law. I, having forgotten the custom, nodded along as the family saw us off to Huangjia Village. I asked if Sui planned to stay or return with me. She retorted, "Are you stupid? You don't stay over on the first visit." I recalled the rural taboo. One cannot stay at the bride's parents' home on the first return visit. My mistake. I've been too focused on hunting. They reached Huangjia Village, where Huang Shan and Huang Hai were waiting. Sui greeted her brothers excitedly, clearly missing home. I greeted my brothers-in-law respectfully. The brothers chatted with Sui as they walked home, I following with my bike. I formally addressed my in-laws, having married into the family. Despite my past life, I remained calm. Old man Huang, now recovered, chatted aimlessly with me to pass the time. Sui went to the kitchen with her mother, while her brothers joined me. By noon, the brothers' attitude had warmed significantly, likely having verified that the Su family treated their sister well. The boys spent a day in the mountains for this meal, bagging pheasants, rabbits, and a sika deer. They even went to town for good liquor. The brother produced a bottle of Wuliangya, a luxury item costing 5 yuan and requiring ration coupons.